to everyone. For a second, the microphone wasn't working, but thank you to everyone who's been tuning in. This is going to be a reaction stream to Game Week 12. We're going to be looking ahead to that and obviously reacting to Game Week 11. So a bit of a hybrid here. And thank you very much to everyone who's decided to tune in today. I'll try to get through all the questions and comments. And I'm actually going to put a poll out. I want to see what people are saying. And I actually put one out earlier, a kind of midfielder battle. I want to see what you lot are saying in the live chat. That should be pretty interesting. So I actually put it up now. And then I'll be going through your questions. But obviously, like I said, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new, if you do enjoy this sort of stuff. So, which midfielder do you prefer? We're going to do the exact same poll, but this time in this. And if you have any suggestions for any other polls, then of course I will be putting them up later on as well. So, which midfielder do you prefer? And they are the kind of two main talking points at the moment around their price bracket: Smith Rowe and Gallagher. What a surprise, isn't it? And actually, I believe it was, what, 65% of the vote for Smith Rowe earlier, but to be fair, I put the poll out as soon as he scored, so maybe people were being reactionary there. So which midfielder do you prefer, Smith Rowe or Gallagher? Let me know by voting, and I'm going to be going through your questions now. So, welcome Ninja, and yeah, you had Reece James as captain. Yeah, Salah didn't do too well, but still got the assist, and that's the thing with him. He's like the least likely to blank of any player, despite the fact that West Ham is a tough fixture, and we did talk about that. Welcome Lipuk. How bad was the refereeing and those commentators? Not reactionary, would have still complained even if we had won. Oh, in the Liverpool game. Yeah, I think kind of for both sides, the referee was poor. I mean, it is Craig Pawson. I've talked about him before. Actually, last year, Arsenal against Wolves, one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen. He sent off Leno, and to be fair, that was a correct sending off. But the David Luiz one, I can't get my head around it. So yeah, I'm not too surprised, to be honest. Welcome Rock and Roll, and obviously thank you very much. And as he says, yeah, I try to keep the comments respectful and try not to spam the chat, and I'll try to get through as many questions as possible, as I always do. Aranya, welcome. Are Trent, Cancelo and James Chilwell must-haves from now on? I didn't have Trent. It is making me pay. Also, if you had Chilwell, would you do a sideways move to James and spend a free transfer on that? I wouldn't, because Alonso is out at the moment. We don't know for how long, but I just don't think it's worth making that sideways move. And to be honest, I still prefer Chilwell, especially now that he should be more nailed than James. And are they all essential? I think even Diaz you can put into that conversation. Yes, he's not an attacking fullback, but he can give you those steady clean sheets for Man City. And I got rid of him this week for James, and I literally made, 1 point from that? But literally, I just want to have James. I like that attacking potential, the ceiling. But I knew with Diaz, he could keep a clean sheet against United easily. But for me, yes, I think having at least two of those players you mentioned is a must-have. You don't have to have all of them, though. But of course, watching any of those teams, and I put it on Twitter earlier, without those fullbacks is painful viewing. Welcome, Kobe. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome, Melvin. Welcome, Hospa. Welcome, DM. Welcome to Addy. 67 points, not too bad considering I don't have Cancelo, but that's the thing, you don't have to have a certain player, and I think this week shows it more than anything, because there are so many different avenues to points. Gallagher, Smith Rowe, these defenders we're talking about. The forwards at the moment aren't really performing, and Ivan, Tony and Mbuma, don't worry, we'll get onto them later. What a big disappointment. I've actually been talking them up a little bit prior to the Norwich game, and it just hasn't happened really. Hi Dylan. Wildcard 12, Cancelo worth a -4. I think it depends on who you're getting rid of, but I think long term it's a good move. It's good fixtures for City, and even then they're fixture proof. And Cancelo this week, I mean, incredible week for him. 5 assists in 2 games. He's such a good player, so I think it's worth it. Don't have Trent. Yeah, but once again, you don't have to have him, but I would rather have him than not, to be honest. Forgot to say hi because of how intense this game week has been. No worries, Aranya. Good to see you on here again, mate. And yeah, what a very weird game week. And by the way, just to address it, got 69 points so far. Well, that's pretty much the end, isn't it? So 726 points. Finally, a green arrow. Finally. But as you can see from my bench, a lot of points on there. But was I ever going to play Foster over Ramsdale after what happened last week? No. Livramento is someone I really wanted to play against Villa. I talked about Villa's poor stats recently, and obviously Dean Smith has just got sacked today, and how good Southampton have been defensively, and just in general in the last 4 game weeks prior to game week 11. So it's a bit of a weird one. Townsend I was always going to bench anyway, so even if he scored, I wouldn't have really kicked myself about that. Livramento's the only one I wanted to start, but over who? I mean, to be fair, I wasn't going to bench Vardy, even Tony, despite obviously how poor he's been recently. Hi Dylan, 66 points up to 80k from 115. That's a solid rank. Obviously, very similar points total to mine. And yeah, it's so tight at the moment around the top. 66 points, pretty decent despite the fact that I had Cancelo. Another one with 66 points. Best Sanchez replacements, I still think the same. Ramsdale for me. But obviously he does face Liverpool next, so if you don't want to go there, you could go for Gaeta or McCarthy. I'd say those three are the top three Sanchez replacements, and bear in mind he's only suspended for one game, so you'll be back in game week 13. Should we keep Tony? Well, it's a tough one. At the moment you have to say no, but he's still got a really good fixture in Newcastle. I wouldn't get rid just yet. Of course, we said the same thing heading into Norwich, but I'm going to be keeping him for now, and I'm actually thinking of a transfer. Obviously, I've always been talking about Son. I've wanted him for a long time. Looking at the Spurs game briefly, I wasn't really too encouraged. Son had 0 shots today. Kane had 1, I believe, and he also created a big chance. But Harry Kane was so off the pace, and there was a chance where Son got into a really good position and made a really good run, and Kane, I'd say, fumbled the pass because otherwise Son would have been through on goal and perhaps would have scored. But I'm actually thinking of getting Gallagher or Smith-Rowe, most likely Gallagher, into my team for Townsend. I think that just is a natural upgrade. And here, in the live chat, 56% of you have voted for Gallagher, and I think that's the correct decision. If you look at the fixtures, Gallagher is far superior for a long period of time. And also, the thing with Gallagher, and I've been talking about this recently, when Milivojevic is on the pitch, it does affect Gallagher significantly as an FPL asset because he's not getting those set pieces, and that takes away a big part of his creativity and assist potential. But with Milivojevic missing out in the last 2 games, Gallagher 2 double-digit returns, and he was a bit lucky with a goal against Wolves, but still a goal, still double-digit haul. Don't expect that every week. Obviously, around that price bracket, expect inconsistency. But I made the wrong move going for Townsend on the wild card, and obviously Gallagher is proven to be the correct decision. To be fair, though, around that time, I think he blanked 5 times in a row, so that could happen once again as soon as I bring him in. But I like those fixtures. Villa might not be as easy of a fixture when Gallagher plays them because they will have a new manager and they might get that manager bounce. But yeah, 60% of you now going with Gallagher. But Smith-Rowe, I mean, I have been wrong about him, I have to say, this season. He's been doing so well. Thoughts on Bowen? Yeah, I mean, obviously the fixtures are very poor, but he is so good, and the dribble he made and the pass for that goal. Bowen at the moment is West Ham's best attacker, and it's a bit frustrating as an Antonio owner. Of course, you technically could say he got 2 assists. I mean, very good play for the goals from the set pieces, but yeah, Bowen is just looking really good. Also, Dylan Ramsdale, Sarr, Townsend, Ings after game week 12. Who should I transfer in? I wouldn't transfer any of those guys in. I'm guessing you're saying you're getting rid of them. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. In terms of transferring any of them in, I'd just rather have Ramsdale as a long-term pick, but I'm assuming you're not saying that, actually. I was thinking about Son and Tony will go out, but I guess I will still wait one more week. Yeah, I would not get rid of Son at this moment in time. The fixtures are turning. Leeds is a really good fixture. And yeah, I wouldn't get rid of Son at this moment in time. Spurs look terrible against Everton. Jota over Son. Yeah, this is the thing. So for a long time, as I just said, I was looking at Son and perhaps Kane. But with now Firmino being out potentially for a few weeks or months, let's wait and see what the diagnosis is. But that already kind of shifts Jota as one of the more priority transfers to make. I'd love to get him. Of course, it's a bit more difficult now with Rafinha showing a bit of form, and he is one of the top goal scorers in the league, actually, especially amongst midfielders. But Jota is probably looking like more of a priority transfer and might offer better value than Kane and Son. But still, I think it's best to not be reactionary. There's a reason why you want to get those players in. They've got a top-class manager now, and Kane and Son, obviously, when they click, they're one of the best duos in the world, and I think they will click. It's just a matter of time. But will they be as good as last season? I don't think so. Not anytime soon anyway, but these fixtures are a great opportunity. And I think if you go for Jota instead of Son for the time being, I think you're justified. And then after reassessing or evaluating Spurs after a few more game weeks, and if they show a bit of consistency or signs of, exploding, then I'd hop on Son. Do you think I should do Raya to Gaeta for a free transfer, or should I just roll and play Ramsdale? To be honest, I just get rid of Raya anyway because he's out for 4 months. So I'd either get Gaeta or Foster just to downgrade and get more money and invest in the rest. But I think it's worth it, especially if you're not sure of any other transfers to make. Spurs look bad. I'm not sure if Conte will make them a good goal-scoring machine. To be fair, he's only been working with them for a few days, and he's pretty much the exact same team as last week against Manchester United and also in the Europa Conference League. So I don't think we should be judging, but we can already see a few signs, of Spurs improving. I know it was a really poor performance overall, but defensively, much more promising. Obviously, Everton not really in the greatest of form anyway, and the wing-backs were getting into great positions. The problem is, Reguilon and Emerson Royal, for the time being, have very poor end product. Good evening, Harry. Mohammed says, Lucas Moura looks a good option. He's only 6.5 million. I talked about him the other day and he was around 0.7% owned at the time. But I still think Lucas Moura, for the time being anyway, let's see if he can develop in certain areas. But his end product isn't that good. Ultimately, you want Son or Kane or a defender like Emerson Royal or Reguilon. I don't think Lucas is the answer. And if you compare Lucas to Smith Rowe, Gallagher, and all these other options around that price, Rafinha, I don't think he's anywhere near. So I personally, I'd keep an eye on him. I'm not discounting him completely, but I probably wouldn't go there, especially right now. Would you sell Benrahma and Mbeumo and bring in Smith Rowe and Gallagher? I think those are two long-term upgrades, but it's a bit of a weird time to get Smith Rowe. Obviously, he can do well against Liverpool, but I think the chances are relatively slim. I think Gallagher's the one to go for, and then maybe in a few weeks' time for Smith Rowe, you can get him in. Arsenal do play, I think, West Ham soon, United alongside Liverpool, so I don't think it's the greatest time to get them in. With no keeper next game week or get in one, I'd get one in if possible, to be honest, Ibrahim. Rafinha worth bringing in? It's a tough one. Obviously, he's got some good fixtures coming up, but then they turn very severely around game week 15-16. But I still think he's a good option overall. But obviously, with Gallagher, with Smith Rowe, and all these other options kind of come into the mix, you don't have to get Rafinha. But I think he's a decent transfer. You're putting a poll, Gallagher or Smith Rowe, I would say both. Fair enough. I think, though, if you had to pick one, I'd probably still go for Gallagher. But that's assuming Milivojevic is out of the team and the starting 11. Son captain next week. Salah faces Arsenal. Yeah, Arsenal have been very impressive, but Salah has a great record against Arsenal, and I think Salah and Liverpool will, produce a response. They've just lost their unbeaten streak, and by the way, that just goes to show how impressive that invincible season is for Arsenal, in my opinion. And obviously, yeah, you can say so many draws for that amazing team, but at the same time, it's so difficult to draw those games where you probably deserve to lose, as proven every single season, to be honest. You still think about getting Son or Kane? Yeah, I still am. I'm still more keen on Son, but if you have to base it on this performance alone, I think Kane was slightly better, at least in terms of the underlying stats, but of course, neither of them too impressive. Rafinha or Smith Rowe or Gallagher in for Mbeumo. At this moment in time, I'd say Gallagher. I think just for the price, the value, and also long term, and because of the last two game weeks with Milivojevic out and Gallagher showing that kind of early season form he was, I'm probably more keen on him than I was a few weeks ago, to be honest. Vardy downgrade suggestions, having Mbeumo. It's difficult, to be honest, Singh, because all of the other strikers are blanking at the moment. Obviously, Hwang expecting consistency. Then you have Tony, who's just been blanking for 5-6 game weeks on end. Pukki obviously showed a bit of form this week, but are you going to expect that on a long-term basis? Probably not. Antonio's been blanking a lot, so it's difficult to really suggest one because they're all not looking too promising. Jimenez has been very good recently, but then look at the fixtures from game week 14 onwards. They're not very promising. So honestly, I still think Tony is on paper a good option, but he's just not delivering, so it's difficult to back him. I think Broca, if he gets into the team, is good, but with Armstrong's form, a very well taken goal against Villa, by the way, I actually honestly wouldn't be able to recommend any. I have to see a bit of consistency from these options first. I still think overall Antonio's probably the best option, but he's not showing it at the moment, to be honest. Reguilon or Royal? Honestly, it's very difficult for me to say after this game, but both of them look promising, both of them very similar, getting into good positions, but no end product. The way I see, I think Royal will probably score more goals, but Reguilon will get more assists, but not really too confident in either at the moment. And honestly, look at Chilwell, James, even Diaz, Trent, Cancelo. They're the best defenders you want to go for. Then Livramento, of course, for such a cheap price, or Ben White, who got 8 points today. I'd be looking at those options first before the Spurs ones, but obviously very big improvement in just a matter of days, and it shows how good of a manager Conte is, but obviously just one game. Let's wait and see. Best forward under 10 million. I still think Antonio, but it's difficult for me to make a case for him with the fixtures coming up and how many blanks he's produced recently, but I still think Antonio, in my opinion. What chip do you plan on using for the double game week? Well, yeah, definitely the bench boost, the free hit potentially, if not in a blank game week, and also the triple captain, but there's going to be multiple double game weeks, so it depends on how they fall, but yeah, those chips would be used there. If you have Havertz transfer to Jota, I would probably, yeah. I think long term, also Jota loves playing Arsenal, scored, I think, a brace last season. And also he scored his first goal for Liverpool, I think it was last season too, with his hand, but still got the goal. So yeah, I think he loves playing against Arsenal. Should I remove Sanchez from -4? If you don't have another goalkeeper, then yes. I'm assuming you have Ben Foster, but he does play Manchester United. I'd expect a response from the Red Devils. But yeah, I probably would in that situation. 29 points on my bench. Yeah, very similar, mate. Foster's going to get 11, by the way, obviously. He's got 3 bonus points. Livramento, thankfully no bonus there. Townsend 3. But yeah, yours is worst, obviously. I do sympathise. It actually was, in the end, a good week to play the bench boost, but there will be double game weeks where you have an opportunity to, play it. So it's not the end of the world, I think. It's because they put all the strikers as midfielders, Dylan. Yeah, even Salah, for example, in Sky Fantasy, he's a forward because he actually is a forward. But yeah, I completely agree, to be honest. Good evening, Dylan. Good evening to you as well, Nabil. These forwards are so disappointing. Exactly. I probably should rename the stream to Disappointing Forwards or something like that. I mean, I'm not very creative there, was I? But yeah, they honestly are so lackluster at the moment, and it's so difficult to actually see any consistency from any of them. But still, over the course of the season, Vardy and Antonio have been the best. It's so difficult with Vardy, though, because literally as soon as I got him in, he just started blanking 1-1-2 in terms of the point returns. And before that, he was on a 4-game goal-scoring run. So look, I think he'll get the goals, but after the Chelsea game. But never discount Vardy. I think, if he scored against Chelsea, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. Should I still keep Benrahma? He's still a decent option, but I would prefer Gallagher, Smith Rowe even, maybe not right now, but, after the Liverpool game potentially. And of course, Rafinha's looking decent. But yeah, if not, if you have enough money, I would probably do Benrahma to Jota. I know Jota wasn't too impressive today, but playing up front at 7.5 million for the best attacking team in the league, I think it's a no-brainer. Wood, yeah, I mean, he's been showing a bit of form recently, and I still wouldn't go there. From Burnley, Cornet is the one I'm keeping an eye on, but yeah, he's not bad. Ramsdale is good. Yeah, he's good. He nearly, he had a howler today, I have to say. Joshua King should have done better. And as I think Jack Wilshere and Jamie Redknapp said in the studio, if that was Kanu, that's definitely a goal. But obviously, not everyone is as good as Kanu. Ollie to be sacked tomorrow, possibly. So United players will be a good option from Gameweek 15. I still think they're good options, even with Ollie at the helm. But of course, I think with a serious manager, no offense to Ollie, obviously, but I think they would be even more appealing. Bruno Fernandes, I know a lot of people are kind of discounting him. If he can add those goals again, coupled with the creativity he's showing, he's a fantastic option. Ronaldo, of course. In recent years, he is more of a, I'd say, I forgot the term actually, it's escaping me, but he loves targeting these kind of smaller teams, and he can go on an amazing run. With Juventus, he's been doing the same recently, so I think with those fixtures, it's kind of a no-brainer. I still wouldn't look at Shaw, even if Varane's in the side. I just think the other wing-backs offer such good value, and even Diaz, of course, like I mentioned before. 20 points on my bench, and then, yeah, Kobe says 21 points, so Jet as well. Yeah, it's just one of those weeks, to be honest. But, ultimately you can't kick yourself, and there's a reason why you played those players in your starting 11. It's a difficult one, but it's still important, I think. It's better to have this squad depth than just not having it at all, because if, in the case you need that squad depth, if someone gets rotated or injured or whatever, it's good to have that squad depth. Bowen, yeah, Bowen's looking like a really good option, to be honest, but I probably wouldn't be targeting him right now, because of the fixtures. But then again, he showed his quality against Liverpool. Fornals obviously had a really good performance too, but I would rather have I'd rather have Bowen. 76 this week with Foster and Livramento Halls on the bench. Yeah, that's a good week, mate. That's a really good week. 69 points, 137k to 8k. Pretty happy. That's an amazing score, mate. And a very good rank rise. So, yeah, a lot of similar scores, I think, in the chat. And obviously a lot of similar points on the bench too. 76 this week. Oh yeah, I said that, my bad. Best time to wildcard. If you haven't played it already, I think Game Week 50 might be a good one, especially if United do change manager, just to be, on top of those Chelsea fixture swings, which go for the worse, I think, and also United. Also, you're getting in on the end of West Ham. Their fixtures turn around Game Week 16, so you can get Bowen in your team, for example. But yeah, even now is not a bad time to wildcard. I know, like, some of the players you'd be looking to bring in, like Smith Rowe, they have tough fixtures, but the wildcard is a long-term process. So yeah, if you're not wildcarding this week, maybe ahead of Game Week 13 or 15, I'd say. Thoughts on Spurs defenders? Yeah, like I said before to one of the viewers, I think they showed a lot of promise, the wing-backs, but their end product is still something that leaves a lot to be desired. And once again, I think the defenders from Chelsea, obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold, the Portuguese duo at Man City, they offer such great value, and they're much better defences than Spurs, even with Conte, at the wheel. So then, of course, you have Livramento offering great value. So I keep an eye on them, and I'm definitely not discounting them, but I just think at the moment there's so many different options that you just don't have to go for them, to be honest. I don't think CR7 plays the easy games with that depth. That's a very good point. Also, his fitness is incredible, for a 36-year-old, soon to be 37. But Ronaldo can't realistically play every, 3-4 days, especially during the winter period. So there might be the odd occasion. Obviously, it's not very realistic, but he might be benched. It happened with Zidane even 3 years ago when Ronaldo was in an even better, position in general. He's winning Ballon d'Ors and everything because they were resting him for the Champions League. And realistically, you can't expect him. He's not a machine. No one is. Obviously, he's one of the best players of all time, but you can't really expect that every, few days. De Gea, when United fixtures swing, nah, mate, because United poor defence. Obviously, if they change manager, they have Varane there. They have a decent record with him, then maybe consider him. But I think Ramsdale's just offering great value. Of course, Sanchez when he's back from suspension. Gaeta's looking really good. Palace are looking like a really good unit overall. So not for me. McCarthy as well. No problem, Praffel. Thank you very much. 31 points on the bench. Norman got a return. I actually highlighted him in the preview. I was kind of struggling for a 4.5 million midfielder, but I just highlighted him. I didn't expect him to score, by the way. I'm not a genius or anything, but he ended up doing pretty well. Vardy to Kane or Mbuma and Vardy to Son and Tony. It's difficult, to be honest, because I think Vardy has really good fixtures straight after Game Week 12, so it might be worth keeping him. And also, Son and Tony haven't really shown too much, for that to really be worth a transfer. If anything, maybe Jota, because he's playing up front. He's got the underlying stats. Really good Champions League performance midweek against a very good team. So maybe Jota could be someone you could look at, or Gallagher long term. Your plans on transfers, very good question. I'm actually going to show you now my team heading into Game Week 12 at the moment. And look at this. 5-2-3. I've got Rafinha on the bench. I'm a bit, conflicted about having him on the bench, but the same would go for anyone else. Maybe Tony should be benched at this point, but he is facing Newcastle. Let me know what you would do, but this is what I'm looking like at the moment. In terms of transfers, I'm thinking of Townsend to Gallagher as a simple move. I just think if Milivojevic continues to be out of the team, Gallagher's such a great option, playing as that kind of floating number 10 on set pieces, the majority of them anyway, and he's looking like such a good player, can get those goals and assists, and even on other occasions. I think there was one time where Jose Sarr spilled, a shot, and Gallagher nearly got on the rebound as well. So he's getting into good positions, and he's just looking good on the eye test, and the underlying stats are slowly creeping back up again. If you compare him to Smith Rowe statistically, he is superior, but then again, Smith Rowe is vastly overperforming those stats. So not everything is about stats, of course. They're just a good indication. But yeah, ultimately, Townsend to Gallagher could be a move I'm looking at. I'm actually very happy with my defence. Obviously, I just made 2 defender transfers in the last 2 weeks. I don't want to keep chopping and changing that. I like my goalkeeper despite the tough fixtures coming up. I like Foden a lot. I know he blanked, but a very good performance against United. Could have scored. Salah, of course, is Salah. I'm not going to get rid of him. Vardy, obviously, I'm not really too happy with him. But then again, look at Son and Kane. They're also not showing too much. But of course, they've got very good fixtures long term. But I'm still considering getting Son in. Maybe Jota as well. But in order to do that, I'd have to get rid of Foden probably, or Rafinha. And even then, just doing Rafinha to Jota, I'd have to make another move elsewhere. And I'm not going to be taking a hit, I think, or I'd try to avoid it if possible. So I think the easiest move is to get rid of my weak link, which right now is Townsend, and getting Gallagher in. So I think that's what I'm going to be going for. But in the team selection videos, and also the other ones I'm going to be making soon, I'll be confirming my moves there. Do you plan to get CR7? Around Game Week 15 potentially, but once again, I don't think he's absolutely essential, because once again, at 12.4 million, you want someone you want to captain. So at this moment in time, he doesn't seem like that, and he could be rotated from time to time. Not too often, but still. Watch Vardy go mad after Chelsea scoring every game week after we all sell him. Yeah, I think that's possible, and that's why I'm going to be keeping him for the time being. Obviously, there's a big fixture swing around Game Week 17, isn't it? Yeah, Game Week 17, Tottenham at home, Everton away, City away, Liverpool at home. To be fair, though, he's got a great record at the Etihad and against City. Against Liverpool, he likes playing against them. So I think it's not really that bad, but yeah, you probably would be looking to get rid of him at that stage. The problem is, can you realistically afford, all these amazing wing backs we have at our disposal at the moment? Salah, Foden, Jota, Son or Kane, and Vardy. You can't. So you have to, prioritise. But I think Watford at home, he could do extremely well. They haven't kept a clean sheet all season. Southampton away is a bit tricky, I think, at this moment in time, but I could still see some goals there. Aston Villa away, obviously, in recent weeks, they've been looking really poor. They could look much better. Let's wait and see. And also Newcastle home, that's a fantastic fixture. But of course, Eddie Howe is now the new manager. And then, Tottenham at home isn't the worst fixture in the world, to be honest. But I think Vardy could do pretty well, to be fair. Any chance Steer plays this? I think so. But then again, he could be the third goalkeeper who's actually going to just take that place and leapfrog Steele. But I think he should be all right to start. What's your favourite cheese? That's a very weird question. I guess cheddar or mozzarella. Not too sure. Should I get rid of Pinnock? Well, at the moment, Brentford are just looking very shaky all over the pitch, but still some really good fixtures. Maybe I'd give them a bit more patience, but ultimately I do prefer White, Livramento, and of course those amazing wing-backs I keep talking about. Start Rafinha over Vardy, maybe? Potentially, to be fair. I am thinking about that, but Vardy is fixture-proof in my opinion. It's just he's not really on form at the moment, and Leicester are very inconsistent in general. Thoughts on Spurs defenders? I've answered your question already, Ninja, and look, I'd keep an eye on the wing-backs, but I still prefer the Chelsea wing-backs, Cancelo, Diaz, and Trent, and of course, Livramento. What would you do with Mbumo? It's a tough one, but if I had enough money to do Mbumo to Gallagher or Smith-Rowe, I probably would just do it. Maybe not this week. There's no rush to get rid of him, but long-term, I think those options are much better. Very disappointed, only 49 points. Chelsea didn't keep a clean sheet and Brentford blanked. So pretty much in the last few minutes, Vidra got that equaliser, and I believe that was Chelsea's first open play goal conceded all season, even though you could say City's was as well. But I actually was pretty happy, to be honest, but they're still 3 points clear at the top of the league. But it's just that sort of week, to be honest. There's points all over the board, and sometimes, if you triple up on a certain defence, these are the risks that can happen. Obviously, I've got a double up there. Any news on Calvert-Lewin? I think he's still out for a few weeks. He might be back after the international break, but no news yet. Of course, he was on Sky recently as a pundit. Is it worth doing a -4 for Aspie to James? I think it's worth it, Corey. Even if Aspilicueta starts in place of James next week, I just think long-term it's a much better move. You also probably lose Vardy against Newcastle because CR7 has Norwich this week. True. Yeah, this is the thing. You can't have everyone and you have to prioritise. But none of them are really kind of standing out at the moment, and Vardy has still been one of the best forwards this season. Best 6.5 million or less forward. I mean, honestly, it's tough. Obviously, Armstrong you'd say at the moment on recent form, but I probably wouldn't go there yet. He might not be completely nailed, but normally I'd say Tony, but I just can't really say that. Double Liverpool defence? Definitely not. It's double Chelsea or City defence or nothing. With Liverpool, it's just Trent. There are no more easy fixtures. Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley, all of them were supposed to be favourable fixtures, and look how they turned up. I think it's time to prioritise players than fixtures now. I still think there's an element of fixtures to play. So, for example, when you're bringing in a Son or a Ronaldo, it makes sense. But I agree with your point. It's ultimately about the player and how much you're willing to stick with them long term. That's the main thing, and that's what I'm looking to do in my team. So I'm actually really happy with my overall structure and most of my players. It's just the forward line at the moment. I'm actually considering going 5 in midfield and maybe downgrading one of my strikers. But I'm actually happy with the rest of the team. I like my defence, my goalkeepers, and 3 of my midfielders, I'd say, Foden, Salah and Rafinha. And Tony I'm happy to keep for now, despite the tough fixtures. I do agree. I think the players are the main thing. Is ESR and Gallagher must-have? Not a must-have, but I think around that price bracket, one of them is probably ideal. They're looking like the best options. Norwich are still terrible, I agree. They're still the worst team in the league, and obviously let's wait and see how Newcastle do and who Norwich appoint, but I agree at this moment in time they're just terrible. Sell Benrahma to Gallagher or Foden and Mbumo to Jota? I would not get rid of Foden, definitely not. I know they've got some tough fixtures, but playing false 9 or on the left wing for City is just, don't get rid of him. I think Mbumo to Jota's looking good, but long term, the best move for you is Benrahma to Gallagher. Rafinha for Foden, or is he undroppable? I would not get rid of Foden, honestly. It's just my personal opinion. De Gea to run of fixtures? No, not for me. United's defence is terrible, and you can just get better value from other goalkeepers. Havertz to Foden or Jota? Look, I really like Jota, and playing, as that striker for Liverpool is very enticing, but I do prefer Foden, to be fair. How about Lukaku? If he's back in Gameweek 12, then he's going to be back in the conversation, and of course he will start scoring goals, but I don't know, at this moment in time, the fixtures aren't really there for Chelsea like they were in the last few weeks. That's when you wanted Lukaku. So ultimately, I'm keeping an eye on him, but not in a rush to get him. Dylan, I feel like White's time is almost up. The fixtures are getting bad for Arsenal. I'd advise going to a Spurs wing-back. True, fair enough. With White, I'm mainly talking about your 4th or 5th choice defender. Ultimately, around Reguilon and Emerson Royale's price, I'd rather upgrade to Chilwell, James, Diaz, Cancelo, Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, and if not, just having a Livramento in there. And with White, it's kind of a rotation thing. You can rotate him with Livramento, for example, but ultimately, I have Ramsdale already, so I'm not going to be going there myself. Hwang, Zaha, or Wilson, Gallagher. For me, Wilson and Gallagher, PT. 26 game week rank, 26k, 56k overall. Silver lining to a bad week, yeah, because Liverpool did lose. But yeah, that's still a really good rank, to be fair, and at least you have something to fall back on. Problem is, the week we play double City defence, they will concede and Chelsea won't. Then when you play the opposite result will happen. Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to me, but I'm not really kicking myself about it. I knew Diaz could keep a clean sheet and Burnley could sneak a goal in there. I knew that when I made the transfer from Diaz to James. In the end, it actually, paid off slightly. But long term, I'd rather have James with that attacking potential, than Diaz. But of course, City still, in my opinion, have the best defence. But Chelsea's is right up there, of course. 4-5-1 could be an OP formation. Yeah, it's not really, kind of a popular one, but you might be right, to be fair. It's all about the personnel. And at the moment, the strikers simply aren't cutting it. Should I get Cancelo for Rudiger? That's a tough one. I still like Rudiger a lot, but yeah, Cancelo for me, I'd have one City defender at least, and Cancelo right now is looking just one of the best options, to be fair. Diaz to Lamptey, then Mbeumo to Jota, or Brownhill to Gallagher. I probably wouldn't do that still. If you have Cancelo already, then fair enough, but yeah, with Lamptey, I've talked about this before. He's injury prone, and I don't know, that's already a big question mark for me, so... But if you do decide to go ahead with that, I would rather do probably Mbeumo to Jota. But, of course, if you do switch to a 3-5-2, Brownhill to Gallagher looks like an exceptional move. Rafinha versus Jota versus Foden. Right now, I'd rank it Foden first, Jota second, Rafinha third. But I say up until the end of the season, it's Foden first, Rafinha second, Jota third. I just think at this moment in time, Jota playing up front, he's arguably the best of the three. But that won't stick, I think, for the rest of the season unless he starts getting into some really good form. Personally, I don't think Rodgers will be Leicester manager next game week. Yeah, there's some rumours that he's going to actually take the United job earlier on. Let's wait and see, of course. But yeah, you never know, to be honest. I mean, a quarter of the managers this season have already been sacked. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised if it's 6 or 7 managerial changes if those two happen as well. Best keeper choice for Sanchez. Yeah, for me it's Ramsdale still. I've always talked about this. Ramsdale, Raya and Sanchez are the best ones. Raya's injured now, of course, and Sanchez is suspended, so Ramsdale for me. But Gaeta and McCarthy, last few weeks, they've proven their worth. I'd actually rank Gaeta over McCarthy because of the fixtures. So yeah, at this moment in time, it's Ramsdale, Gaeta and McCarthy, in my opinion. West Ham in Champions League, I think it's a possibility, to be honest. It's definitely a possibility, and they can even aim higher than that, 3rd or 2nd, but realistically, I think the top 3 will be the top 3, and we all know those names. Who shall I bring in for Havertz, Son or Jota? I think if you can afford it, I would still rather go for Son, but I think Jota can offer even better value at this moment in time. Dylan, what do you think about these 5 moves over the next 5 game weeks? Vardy, Son, Tony and Mbeumo, Armstrong out, Rafinha, Jesus, Jimenez, Bernardo, Antonio in. I like Antonio because long term he's got really good fixtures, and Rafinha for the time being, but ultimately I think I'm not too sure about that because Vardy has exceptional fixtures from game week 13 onwards, at least for 4 or 5 game weeks. Son up until 25, exceptional fixtures, so I don't think that's worth it in my opinion. But I like the transfers you're getting in, especially Rafinha and Antonio, but ultimately I wouldn't go there, to be honest. Pick 2 for game week 12, Rafinha and Mbeumo, Giamenez. Wait, there must be maybe I'm just bugging out, but yeah, I guess Rafinha and Mbeumo. -4 to Son. It depends who you get rid of, but I still think it could be a long-term good move. What do you think about Zaha? Well, he scored yet again, another open play goal, but with Zaha, I still prefer Gallagher. I think he's the one to go for Palace. I wouldn't double up on their attack. Zaha is a good option, though. James Reguilon, for a hit, I would not be getting rid of James. No, definitely not. Especially for a hit, no chance. If it's the other way around, I probably would do it, to be honest. Bench Ramsdale last week, Foster this week. Yeah, same. And I'm not playing the victim or anything. It might seem like it, but Ramsdale had his best ever performance in my opinion last week against Leicester. Foster had one of the best, if not his best performance ever. Amazing save from Gabriel. Great penalty save, even though Aubameyang's penalty was very poor. But yeah, at least Ramsdale got a bonus point. We're a bit lucky there. I don't think he deserved it, to be honest, and I think Smith Rowe owners are a bit unlucky there. McCarthy or Gaeta? Gaeta for me, but I like McCarthy too, and I'd rather just cover Southampton with Livramento. Edouard, Moura or Jota Broca? Jota Broca for me, but Broca, obviously, he's not really a starter. So if this is to start in your team, maybe, long-term Jota Broca might not cut it for you. Bowen on Fornals were really good last season, by the way. How do you compare them both to Rafinha? They were, but from an FPL perspective, they weren't the greatest. Obviously, Lingard kind of stole the limelight from January onwards. But yeah, they're good options. I think Bowen, I actually talked about him in the first few game weeks where he was blanking and it was Benrahma getting all the assists and goals. And Bowen was someone who was, looking really good, just wasn't getting those attacking returns, and he's finally delivering. And I think he's probably the best West Ham midfielder at the moment. Christensen to Trent for free, I'd definitely do that, to be honest. Yeah, I think long term it's just a really good move. Just jumping on from Florida, lads. Welcome, John. Good to see you on here again, mate. Prioritise Son, Trent, Smith Rowe. I think long term, looking up until the rest of the season, it has to be Trent for me. Yeah, I agree, Elliot. It has to be Trent. Bernardo or Foden? Still Foden. Of course, Bernardo's looking really good recently, but Foden has to be him. Would you do Mount or Jota for a hit? I probably would, yeah. I don't think Mount's going to be necessarily nailed, especially when Werner and Lukaku are back, and it looks like Lukaku might be, on schedule to return. I'm on 59 with the Rafinha captaincy, awaiting his and Trent's bonus points, but bench Cancelo. Fair play, captaining Rafinha. That's a really good move, mate. Obviously, he got more points than Salah. And, obviously, look, I'm not going to disrespect, he paid tribute to, someone who passed away, but Rafinha always finds a way to just escape those double digits. But, I think it's a stupid rule, to be honest, to book someone for taking off their shirt. Should I have got rid of Ronaldo and upgrade my defensive midfield? The thing is, though, around Game Week 15, you might be looking at it and thinking, well, I want Ronaldo back in my team. The fixtures are just glorious. So it kind of goes both ways. You can't have everyone. It's about having that balance and having a team that long-term you're happy with. But as long as you have, for example, looking at my team, if you have 3 of these 5 defenders at least, I think you're good to go. But of course, defenders are looking really good at the moment, and I'm going really big at the back, as you can see. 5 ahead of Game Week 12. It's just mental. But to answer your question, I think over the next few game weeks it's worth it. But then again, would you get rid of Ronaldo ahead of Watford? I just don't think it's worth it, to be honest. Best Brighton defender at the moment? Great question. Obviously, normally I'd say Duffy, but I don't think long-term he's secure. So I would say Lamptey, to be fair. I think he's probably the best one. The problem with him is he's injury-prone. So if you want someone who's going to be nailed, who's going to get you a few goals and probably just, tick over with bonus points, it has to be Dunk. But I just think Lamptey might offer you the best value. How are you going to get Jota into your team? Well, I might not, to be honest. You can't have everyone. I'm not going to be getting rid of Foden or Salah to facilitate that. In order to get Jota, I'd have to downgrade Vardy, basically one of my other strikers or defenders, and then that will enable me to do Rafinha or Townsend to Jota. Maybe Vardy down to a cheaper striker. Makes sense, but then again, who am I going to be getting in? I'd still rather have Vardy than any other striker, for the next 4 or 5 game weeks. So, yeah, I don't think it's worth it, to be honest. But of course, I'd love to have Jota. If I was on a wild card, I would find a way to get him in. Greenwood for Gallagher, yeah, I think that's a good move, mate. I think, obviously try not to overreact, but Gallagher long term, so long as Milivojevic isn't in the side, is a really good option. Gray out for Jota and Alba out for Vardy or Antonio. And by the way, Captain Alba -2 points. Yeah, Aubameyang owners were very unlucky. I had a feeling Foster was going to save it. I literally kept saying to Foster, don't save the bloody penalty, but he did. Aubameyang, sometimes very erratic from penalties. I think those transfers are good, though. I probably would do those, yeah. Long term, I'd rather have Antonio over Vardy, but for the next 5, definitely Vardy for me. Prioritise Son or Jota? It's a tough one. I still think Son is the best one, but for the next 5, or so long as Firmino is out, I think Jota will offer better value potentially. Gallagher for Greenwood, yeah, mate. I said I'd do that. Bonus points are in, yes, they are. So let's actually show you. Let's refresh the page. So yeah, 69 points, as you can see, amazing score. So ultimately, what I got 20 points on my bench. Not the worst. I've seen people with like 31, 27, etc. Wouldn't have been a bad, week to bench boost if obviously, I had someone else like Norman instead of Douglas Luiz. Then I probably would be really pissed off. But sometimes it happens. What's that kit? Bonus points are in yet. Bench Rafinha or Diaz. I'm thinking of benching Diaz since I have Cancelo. I think City are well poised for a clean sheet, to be honest. But of course, Rafinha has more attacking upside, of course, and a higher ceiling. I probably would start Diaz though. Hey Dylan, what are your thoughts on Ben Johnson? I think around his price, 3.9 million or 4 million if he is now, he's looking like the best option. So, if you have Livramento, Ben Johnson, and, these options like Trent, Cancelo, and James, I think you're good to go, to be honest. Would you sell Kane and upgrade the midfield and defence? I would use a wild card to do it. If you're on a wild card, then potentially, and then get Son in midfield. But it is a bit of an awkward time to get rid of Kane because I think against Leeds, a bit similar to the Newcastle game, he can get that goal and assist and easily get double digits. I play 5-4-1 in Game Week 12. Yeah, I'm pretty much doing something similar with 5-2-3, which looks very weird, of course. Choose back 4 from the back 4 of Chilwell, Diaz, Cancelo, Trent, and Livramento. Has to be for me Trent, Cancelo, Chilwell, and Livramento. Diaz is good, and he's probably the most safest pick of the 5, but I think those 4 are better. Do Kane to Ronaldo for Game Week 12, have Son already? It's a tough one. Ronaldo is probably a better asset than Kane, at least at this moment in time, but both of them have great fixtures. Honestly, I probably would keep Kane for now, and if he still looks lackluster in Game Week 15, easy switch to Ronaldo, and you don't have to think about it too much. But of course, I can see why you want to get him in ahead of that Watford game. Really happy my rank at the moment was 2 million 3 weeks ago, and now I'm 150k. Exactly. That's why I always tell people, if they're asking, can I get into a good rank if I'm around 2 million or whatever? It's definitely possible. And obviously, there's still a long way to go. Any ideas who to bring in for Havertz, please? Can't afford Son in one move. I think Jota, mate. Jota or Foden. I would personally go for Foden, Sophie, but Jota is also a great choice with Firmino out potentially. But don't make the transfer yet, I think. Because if Firmino is now back, around Game Week 12 or 13, which is maybe unlikely, but it's still a possibility, then it might not be the wisest thing to do it. Are you benching Vardy against Chelsea? I am considering it. I mean, I do have double Chelsea defence facing the Foxes, so it is a possibility, to be honest with you. Trent essential. I think it's not really a case of is Trent essential, because you can also have points from Gallagher, Smith Rowe, and the Chelsea fullbacks instead. But I think having one of those fullbacks, Cancelo, James, Chilwell, Trent, I would try to have 2 of them at least. But yeah, definitely try to have 1 of them. If not, then yeah, I'd say maybe you're missing out. Vardy or Ronaldo long term? At this moment in time, I'd actually have to say Vardy. But looking at the fixtures, you have to say it has to be Ronaldo. But just in terms of form this season, Vardy has been better in the Premier League. Best striker to buy now, Kane or Vardy? For the next 5 is Vardy. Longer term in terms of fixtures, it has to be Kane, but he's just not showing any form. It's difficult to back him. When will Gallagher go up in price? He went up in price yesterday, mate, so he will go up in price probably up to 6 million before Game Week 12 begins. There's literally an international break now, so 5.9 million easily, to be honest. The not captaining Salah bet ended up not too bad, still 15k. Rafinha or Gallagher is my headache this week, especially if Gallagher goes up a bit. I think if you're trying to have a long-term strategy in place, Gallagher's the one to go for, but of course Rafinha is looking really good at the moment. One of the highest scoring midfielders in the game in terms of actual goals, by the way. My advice for you is Chilwell to Duffy, Luiz to Gallagher. Yeah, but the thing is with Duffy, he's probably not going to be nailed in the team, but I like that Luiz to Gallagher move. But once again, 8 attackers. I'm already having some benching headaches, as you can see. So obviously, I wouldn't mind doing a 4.5 million midfielder transfer. But if I were to do that, Luiz to Gallagher, I would probably want to downgrade one of my strikers. Ben Johnson as a cheap differential for 3.9 million. I think when the fixtures turn, he's obviously a really good choice, but some really tough fixtures coming up. But then again, he's just going to be your 5th choice. So I think it's worth it, to be honest, and he's been worth it for a few weeks now. Rudiger to James, worth it? I think so, but Rudiger's still a good choice, but I think James is an upgrade. Son or Kane and Reguilon and Emerson? At this moment in time, it has to be Son. But Kane was probably slightly better in Game Week 11. As for Reguilon and Emerson, once again, it's a difficult one. We have to see more under Conte in order to kind of define that. But I think Emerson will probably get more goals. He'll probably get into better attacking positions. But Reguilon will probably get more assists. He has better delivery. But both of them leave a lot to be desired, especially compared to a James or a Cancelo or Trent. I put Cancelo on the bench. Yeah, I just thought, obviously, United is a tough fixture on paper, but Cancelo is just so good and fixture-proof. But then again, I benched Livramento, so, we all kind of lost out on points. Took out Fornals, damn it. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a bad decision, though, to be honest. I got 74 and 35k overall. That's a really good rank, MK. And by the way, thank you to everyone who's been watching. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. It really helps out the channel, so it'd be very much appreciated. Son versus Foden. I think Foden, but Son is also a good choice, and I might change my mind, obviously, if Son shows some really good form. Bench Vardy or Diaz? I probably would be inclined to bench Vardy, to be honest. Would you do Rudiger to Chilwell for Game Week 12 against Arsenal, or long term? My other defenders are Cancelo, Chilwell, Livramento, Manquillo. Against Arsenal, but yeah, I'd do that. Rudiger to Chilwell, yeah. Not sure whether to go maybe early with a free transfer or two due to price rises, but not fully sure who I want yet. Maybe Spurs, Jota, Gallagher, and Smith are on the watch list. Foden too. Yeah, I think from those options you say, it has to be Gallagher, Jota, or Foden. I think at the top of your list, but obviously Son is such a quality player. Can't wait for Livramento 2.0. Yeah, it would be typical, I think. Norwich, new manager bounce, they get the goal, and yeah. Would you start Smith Rowe or Hwang for Game Week 12? Good question. Let me just remind myself of the Wolves fixture. Yeah, I'd probably start Hwang, to be honest. But then again, Smith Rowe has been in much better form than Hwang and most other players around that price. Don't really want any strikers right now, to be honest. Obviously, in a week or two, some will bang. I'd definitely take 7 mid defenders or mids. Yeah, at this moment in time, I'd rather have more midfielders and defenders, to be honest. I'd love to have Jota, Gallagher, even Diaz to the mix and all this, but it's just not possible. I have Vardy, Antonio, and Jimenez, but I want to get rid of one of them. Your thoughts? I probably would get rid of Jimenez out of the three, to be honest, if not Antonio. Rafinha hold after the performance against Leicester. I talked about this before. It's not surprised, that he did well against Leicester. So obviously Leicester do have Castagna there. It was normally Luke Thomas, but Castagna came back. But they have a zonal weakness down that side. They concede a lot of chances there. The wingers don't really offer too much support to the fullback, so it's not really something that came out of the blue. I think Rafinha can continue to do well, but then again, it might not be. Don't expect goals every week, basically, and 9 pointers. But I think he is a good option, and I wouldn't get rid of him. What do you think about Romero? I think he's a quality player in real life. He's very young, very aggressive, always gets into fights. But as an FPL player, he'll get the occasional goal. He's good from set pieces. Obviously, he scored a lot of offside goals recently. I think for Spurs against United, for Argentina against Peru, scored against Colombia during the summer. But yeah, I probably wouldn't go there yet. I would rather go for Emerson or Reguilon. I think they'll just offer more sustainable attacking threat and potentially bonus points. Best forward under 7.4 million. I mean, who are we looking at really? I think a Southampton striker, whoever starts up front for Southampton, they don't score too many goals, but when they do, they tend to get the bonus points. So if Armstrong continues to, get into that starting 11, I think it has to be him, if not Broca. Didn't watch the Spurs game. How good were Son and Kane? Son had 0 shots, Kane had 1, and Kane had 1 big chance created. But there was also an opportunity where Son went through on goal, or he was in a position to get through on goal, but Kane fumbled the pass. But I think there are signs that they can click. Obviously, last season they were the best duo in the league, but still not enough really to be in a rush to get them in. Time to get rid of Brentford players. It might be time, but then again, Newcastle is a great fixture, so maybe not necessarily this week. But I think if they continue to blank, of course, you can't really justify it. And one haul in 5, 6, 7 game weeks doesn't justify their inclusion into your squad. Should I bench Kane next game week considering his poor form? No, he's facing Leeds. I wouldn't bench him, to be honest. I can see why you say that, but not for me. Chilwell or James? I think with Alonso out potentially for a few weeks, it has to be Chilwell. And by the way, is anyone watching the F1? What is happening there? Hopefully some good news for Red Bull, but I'm guessing not, to be honest. Vardy to Kane and Havertz to Gallagher. Yeah, I mean, Vardy to Kane, I can see why you're doing it, but you can keep Vardy for those really good fixtures afterwards. That's just a thought. But Havertz to Gallagher, I think, is a good move. I meant Trent and not Chilwell. Would you do Rudiger to Trent for Game Week 12 against Arsenal or long term? That's a good question. Maybe not, because Rudiger actually has a really good record against Leicester. Obviously, records don't mean everything, but you can always get Trent in a week later and you get more flexibility with your transfers, Aranya. Was thinking of keeping Vardy for the good fixtures after Chelsea, but now want to get rid. He has done nothing to spot, but Spurs haven't impressed. Exactly, the players around his price and even above, like Ronaldo, they're not really showing consistency. And then you look below, Jimenez, he was showing consistency recently, but the fixtures turn soon. Antonio's not really showing it at the moment. So there's not really too many options to go for. I think Vardy might be worth the patience. He's a very streaky player. He can go on these really bad, runs of form, but at the same time, he can, score in 5 games in a row. Only 2 players priced over 8 million definitely got a return, Havertz and Salah. Yeah, and a lot of people got rid of Havertz this week, and that's why facing Burnley, not an ideal time to get rid of him. Wow, 69 points. I got 51 this week. Yeah, I'm happy with my score, to be honest, and I got a significant green arrow. I was around 200k or 199k. I needed this because I was literally on a downwards trajectory, and I don't know what, 3 or 4 red arrows in a row, so it wasn't looking too good. Brentford a waste of time? I think so. I mean, in terms of the double up in attack, I was always kind of cautious. I thought, there's potential in there. They've got the underlying stats. They're decent players, but in terms of end product, they're not showing it. And hopefully Tony's not this kind of example of a championship striker, because I think he does have the quality to be a good Premier League striker, but let's wait and see, obviously. All it takes is one goal or, one little bit of form. And sometimes Brentford in general, they need a bit more. Are you serious? Lewis Hamilton? Wait, are you serious? Perez and Max 1-2. Wait, but have the pit stops been made? Like, Verstappen pit, he is second after Perez. Hopefully Perez lets him past. Joking, obviously. Wow, that's amazing. I'm a bit surprised by that. Red Bull 1-2 currently. Verstappen leading pitted the race. Dylan, let's go. Oh, I wish I was watching it. But I'm also streaming. I might have it in the background in the corner of my eye, so when I'm reading the stream, I'm like, I might put it on my phone, actually. Yeah, wow, that's great news. Because, I came back home yesterday a bit late, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh, really? Mercedes 1-2? And I think they broke Ferrari's record of like the most, front grid lockouts in history in terms of poles. Trossard or Malpai? Definitely Trossard for me, and I talked about this from last week, especially if he continues to play in that false 9 role. But I don't expect Trossard to do this every week, and I'd still rather go for Gallagher. Checo leading the race temporarily with Max and Ham behind. Fair enough, yeah, so hopefully Verstappen wins the race. But we'll see. I'd rather have Pookie than Tony. Maybe, to be honest. Who would have thought that, a few weeks ago? Diaz with Gallagher or Foden with 4.5 million defender? That's a good question. Foden with Livramento, I'd say. But just bear in mind with Livramento, the fixtures are turning soon for the worse. Rudiger to James. I like Rudiger, but I think James is worth it. Maybe not this week, because Rudiger does like playing against Leicester. He likes to score against them, but yeah, I think it's worth it. Let me just get the stream up quickly. I'm just going to have it in the corner of my eye. Don't worry, I'll be focused on the stream still, but, if you hear me shouting or anything over F1, apologies on that. So let's get this up. Illegal streams. Yeah, let's not tell anyone about that. All right, so, hey. I've got to get up again. All right, so, piss off. PG, no swearing. Thoughts on 8 Nuri? Looked like a great attacking win back with Marçal out. Yeah, and even last season, I remember he was looking pretty promising, but once again with Wolves, the fixtures are turning soon. I'd rather go for a Spurs asset in defence, but ultimately, for me, it's the Chelsea fullbacks, it's Cancelo and Trent, and of course, if you're looking at those cheaper options, Reguilon or Emerson, Livramento, Ben White, etc. That's what I'd be looking at, but of course, 8 Nuri's looking promising, but I probably wouldn't go there. Vardy replacement, I wouldn't get rid of him, mate, honestly, but if you are set on it, I'd go either to Ronaldo or to Harry Kane for the long term, but obviously Kane has been very poor. Let's try get this auto rotated. Don't worry, I won't be distracted. All right, there you go. Mexico going crazy, I can imagine. Keep Chilwell or James? I'd keep both, honestly. I think obviously the fixtures are turning soon, but I think they're both worth keeping. If only I played Trent over Duffy, I would be climbing into the top. You benched Trent. Oof, that's a tough one. I know West Ham are really good. They scored 3 goals, but Benching Trent, mate. Not bringing in Son, Kane, instead going for Zaha, Jota, and downgrading Vardy to someone. Jesus, sounds good. It sounds good. Once again, though, with City, I'd rather have Cancelo, Diaz, and Foden as my triple up. And then looking at Vardy, Zaha or Jota, definitely Jota for me. I'd rather have him. And if you want Palace cover, I'd go for Gallagher. I really want to bring in Foden, but the only way I can afford him is by selling Rafinha or taking a hit. In that case, I'd probably just stick to Rafinha for now. And obviously, if Jota has those underlying stats or signs of exploding in future game weeks, and Rafinha shows a bit of downturn in form, or is registered as a doubt once again, then maybe make that transfer. But for now, I probably wouldn't. I just moved off F1 to jump on. Verstappen was leading by 3 seconds over Hamilton. Yeah, I've got it here right now. Yeah, it's looking tight. Hamilton's got the fastest lap, doesn't he, as well? But yeah, it's good news. Wait, what happened to Bottas? What the hell happened to him? He's all the way down in 12th. Jesus Christ. And Mick Schumacher's out. And Yuki Tsunoda. Yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Hamilton on Verstappen, he's quick. Well, yeah, he's been quick all season. I mean, in terms of which car's better, it's been very even. You might have to say Red Bull been slightly quicker. But yeah, I mean, I think this is finally, a good year for F1, competitive title race. Let me get through these questions I missed out earlier. Apologies, mates and mateys. I don't know what I'm saying. I really want to bring in Foden, but the only way... Oh, yeah. I love Foden, but I probably wouldn't do that for now. But, yeah, obviously, I can see why. Long term, yeah, Foden for me is better. James Justin will be back after the international break, so I think that left-back problem would be solved. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Castagna is a good fullback, but, I think he's better at right-back, to be honest. But... yeah, I think James Justin at left back, he was so good, and he's someone I actually keep an eye on. He was FPL royalty last season. My team: Ramsdale, Foster, Cancelo, Trent, James, Diaz, Livramento, Salah, Son, Rafinha, Mbeumo, Brownhill, Antonio, Jimenez, and Tony. I have 2 free transfers and don't know what to do with them. Yeah, I mean, that might be a good thing. And then when the kind of, injuries or whatever, kind of occurs during the international break, you're in a good position to, deal with them accordingly. But looking at your team, having that Mbeumo and Tony double up, yeah, maybe it's not ideal to get rid of them ahead of Newcastle, but maybe, for example, you could do Mbeumo to Gallagher. I think that could be an upgrade for your team. Even if Mbeumo does better this week, long-term, Gallagher's a better option. So I probably would be looking for that. Your goalkeepers are fine. Your defence is very good. If you want, you could do Diaz to Chilwell. Chilwell's relatively nailed now, but I think City will probably keep more clean sheets over the next 10 to 15 game weeks. And as for the rest, maybe consider, Tony or Jimenez, moving them on. And yeah, I think the main thing for you is finding money perhaps up front to get a Ronaldo or Harry Kane in a few weeks. But then again, if you already have Son, you don't need Kane. But I think Ronaldo in Game Week 15 could be very good. Or Vardy for the next 5. Bring in Spurs players or wait until they prove themselves. I think Son or Kane, especially Son, they're worth bringing in now. But for me, I'm going to be waiting personally. Best 3.94 million defender, definitely Johnson, mate. No doubt about it, Andy. Hello, Dylan. Remember, I did a -8 for Bernardo and Smith Rowe a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, and they're doing very well for you. I got a question. I have Brentford keeps for 6 weeks. Who should I replace Fernandes with? Ramsdale for me, and if not, Gaeta. They would be my top 2 picks, I think. My overall points is 700. Is it good enough? It's very early on to say if it's good enough or not. I think it's decent, but obviously there's a long way to go. Even for my points overall, you could say it's decent. It's not that good, but there's a long way to go. You can easily catch up to the top 100k. My F1 techs are behind real time. My bad. No more Rory's, mate. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as you said though. Hamilton's a bit further behind Verstappen now. It's like a 5-second difference almost. Ricciardo crashed Bottas at the start. Are you serious? Jesus Christ. So wait, what happened in turn 1? Was it Verstappen literally, leapfrogging both of them in turn 1, or what happened? Actually, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see it. Accident Bottas between McLaren. Oh yeah, Ricciardo. How long would you hold on to Rafinha for? Great question. If we're looking realistically, I'm not really a fixtures sort of person, but I think in this case you have to. Around Game Week 16 is a great time to get rid of them. I think Brentford's a good fixture for Leeds. I think that's where they can maybe, get that win over them and establish themselves outside the relegation zone. I think the next 4 game weeks, honestly, they're not really good fixtures with Leeds. So I'd either get rid of Rafinha potentially now or ahead of Game Week 16. I think that's a really good time, because if you look at the fixtures from Game Week 16 to 26, they are awful. You've got a few good fixtures in between. Rafinha's a good player, of course, very good player. But Burnley at home, Newcastle at home, they're the only really good fixtures on paper for 10 game weeks or so. So yeah, for me it has to be game week 16 or now, really. So maybe, the person who mentioned Foden earlier for a hit, maybe it's actually the right time to get him in for a hit even. Pretty sure I'll do Traore out for Gallagher, Smith Rowe next week. Yeah, I would recommend Gallagher in my opinion. And let me end the vote. Wow, 51% Gallagher. Very, very tough. But we do have a winner there. And it is Gallagher. So Mbeumo ahead of Newcastle, so Rafinha ahead of tough fixtures. Honestly, I'd rather keep Rafinha. So you can get rid of Mbeumo now. I know it's Newcastle. So do Mbeumo to Gallagher and then Rafinha to Smith Rowe or someone else when the fixtures turn for Leeds, sorry. And Arsenal have, I'd say, a bit better fixtures heading into that period. Let's see. Thoughts on Johnson moving forward? I think he could be the best fifth defender you can go for, along with Livramento, of course. You can have both of them even, and then go for those kind of premium defenders, those Chelsea fullbacks, Cancelo and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Havertz replacements, Foden for me, Son or Jota, definitely one of those three. And if you already have those options, or you're looking for someone cheap, I'd go for Gallagher. Ideal forward line, that is probably the toughest question I got asked today, mate, because it's so tough, but I still think Vardy, and you can always have him as a placeholder for Ronaldo or Kane. Antonio, I still think they're the two best, but then I'm really going to say Tony. I think if Armstrong continues to be in that starting 11, I probably would go for him at this moment in time. It is subject to change. I would say Jimenez, but the fixtures are very poor soon, so I can't really go for him realistically. I still have Saint-Maximin. Should I get rid for Hwang? Because I'm bringing in Gallagher plus Hwang. I will have 3.1 million in the bank. Yeah, just bear in mind what I said last week in the streams and in the videos. Bruno Lager was talking about their forward line. Jimenez is the nailed one, but the forwards, the other two, they're subject to rotation based on the profile of opposition. But of course, Hwang is a cheap striker. You've got to be realistic of your expectations. But maybe what you could do is actually downgrade him to someone like a 4.5 million option or Broca, and then go 5 in midfield. That is something you could do. Yeah, Gallagher's such a gem, man. He's looking really good. And part of the reason why I was doubting him is because Milivojevic was back in the side, taking those set pieces away. Gallagher wasn't getting into as good positions for 5 or 6 game weeks. That's why I was blanking a lot. And also, the underlying stats dipped massively. But in recent weeks, they've picked up again. Vieira's done an impressive job. And honestly, if he won Manager of the Month, I wouldn't really, be, going against that. But obviously, realistically, be too sure. If Tony blanks next week, then he's gone. I'm thinking along the same lines, to be honest. I think that's a good point. Held Rafinha till now, but with Tottenham up next and Gallagher's form, is it time to sell Rafinha? I think so, potentially. The reason why I probably won't is because I think Rafinha is still one of the best options and he's fixture-proof. I'm still not that impressed by Tottenham themselves, despite I think they conceded 0.4 XGC against Everton, which is impressive. But I'd rather just go Townsend to Gallagher in my case. But I think in your situation, it might actually just make a lot of sense. I have both Kane and Son. Should I sell one? I'd maybe give them a few weeks. But let's say, for example, in Game Week 15, Kane has not really shown form. Simple switch, Kane to Ronaldo. If not, you could maybe in a week or two's time get Vardy in after the Chelsea game. Hi Dylan, great week for me. Sitting in the top 1k, great mate, that's fantastic. 56 this week. My tip for week 12 is Kane captaincy, the biggest differential of the season. 6.4% ownership. He'll haul against Leeds. A huge green arrow after what happens. I mean, maybe you've got the right intuition there, and I think that's a great suggestion. Despite the fact he's been so poor, he'll probably feature in my captaincy video, or should I say the preview, where he's in the top 5 captaincy options. Same with Son. Both of them did very well last season. I think what did they beat them by? Forgetting the score now. Wasn't it 3-1 or 4-1? But yeah, I think Spurs could. That's where they come into life under Conte. He's going to have that international break. Obviously, it's not ideal. The players are pretty much out, with their respective nations, but he'll have more time to work with the players, and I think he'll have more of his blueprint and DNA on that side. Not bringing in Son or Kane, instead getting Zaha, Jota. Yeah, I answered this already, Path. To do this, I already have Foden and Cancelo plus Chelsea double up, so any other recommendations? Yeah, I mean, for me, it's simple. I think getting Jota in is the way to go, but in terms of the other options, I think just wait for now. I don't think you have to get rid of them or get those players in necessarily just yet. I've been getting green arrows, but I still have Lukaku. Do I swap him for Kane or wait and see? Well, Lukaku might be back around game week 12 or 13, perhaps even longer. But honestly, the way Chelsea are playing, I just rather have their fullbacks, pretty much, or Rudiger. That's it. I'm not really a big fan of their attackers at the moment. When Lukaku shows a bit of form, when he's fully fit, then fair enough. And what just happened now? Yeah, Verstappen's first, Hamilton's second, Perez third. He just set the fastest lap. There's 28 laps left technically. So, yeah, and Gasly's fourth. That's great. Ferrari fifth and sixth. Vettel in eighth. That's nice. Norris seventh. Raikkonen ninth. Alonso 10th. I like that. You know, some of the veterans, Vettel, Raikkonen, Alonso doing well. Apologies for anyone not interested in F1. Yeah, let's see. Transfers that you would suggest. By the way, can I be a moderator? All right, fair enough. Obviously, as long as you're, responsible. I'm not going to make everyone moderator, but yeah, I'll give it just for those predictions. Any transfers you suggest? I think Gallagher. If you're looking for a 5.5 to 6 million midfielder, has to be Gallagher. Smith Rowe is also a good one, but with the fixtures long term, it has to be Gallagher. Another one is a Chelsea fullback. If you don't have them already, get them in. Cancelo, if you don't have them already. Trent, of course. But then kind of the other one's Jota. I think, not showing great form, but he's playing up front. Did very well in the Champions League, and I just think he could explode, really. Phil Foden, if you haven't got him already, I think it's still a good chance to get him in. So yeah, those are the people I'd be going for. I'm top 108k, and I'm from a third world country. Well, fair enough, mate. 108k is a good rank anyway. Yeah, third. I thought you said third in your country, but yeah, that's still good, mate. That's a really good rank, and you can even push further. You can push for the top 10k, to be honest. Yeah, apologies if I'm a bit behind on the chat. I'm trying to catch up on the older questions. So 51% of you vote for Gallagher, and 448 of you voted. So thank you very much. Hi Dylan, not having Trent and Cancelo hurt my rank. Yeah, I mean, it's always going to happen though. Not having Chilwell or James, that hurt me a lot in the recent weeks. It is what it is. Jota, Kane, or Son, Vardy? Great question. I still think Son or Vardy at this moment in time, but Jota, of course, is looking very good. Still have Lukaku. Swap to Kane or wait and see. I probably would swap, or if not, to Ronaldo ahead of the Game Week 15 fixtures. I'm liking Gallagher punt next Game Week, to be honest. I don't even think it's a punt, to be honest. I think it's a long-term move. If we actually break down the fixtures, so let me bring up Gallagher's fixtures for a second. But they're exceptional, I think, for a long period of time. There's some mixed fixtures in there, of course, but I think from an attacking perspective, they're looking great. So Burnley away, I still think that's a good fixture. Villa at home could be very good. Leicester away, I'm not even, I don't think that's a bad fixture. United away at this moment in time. Palace actually have done well there in recent years. Everton at home, obviously Everton were better today defensively, but in general, they've been very shocking recently. Southampton at home is a bit tougher, I think. But I think Palace will get a goal or two there. Watford away, very good fixture. Tottenham away, maybe not the easiest. Norwich at home, of course, is still a really enticing one. West Ham at home is a bit trickier. Brighton away, but you get the drift. There's a lot of good fixtures in there, and these fixtures go on for a long period of time. So you could arguably say until the rest of the season they're kind of well spread. So I like Gallagher, to be honest, and I'm looking to bring him in. Yeah, just waiting to see, to be honest. Oh, what's this bug doing? Yeah, just waiting to see, to be honest, if what am I saying? Yeah, I was losing track. Blame Verstappen and F1. Jota or Gallagher? I still think Gallagher long term. For the next few, I think Jota will probably outscore him, but it has to be Gallagher for me. I'm just hanging around waiting to be hit for benching Cancelo at United. Come on, lads, I need punishment. Nah. I mean, you played the fixture, but that's why sometimes, playing the fixture is the wrong thing to do, but, it can always go for you and against you. Sometimes playing the fixture is the correct decision, sometimes not. It's kind of, you have to trust the decision making and not the outcome there. Tony replacement, I got 41 points, had 34 points on the bench. As Henri would say, ooh, blimey. Jesus, 34 points on the bench. Oh, mate, I feel for you, Eddie, but, I got, 20? Obviously, it's not as bad as yours, but, everyone had points on their bench, I think, and it will happen to all of us. At one point, I think I had Calvert-Lewin and, I basically had like 25, 30 points on my bench last season, so I know how it feels. It does suck, doesn't it? But at least you have those players and you've got that squad depth if needed. Kane or Son will be differential captaincy next week. Yeah, obviously you, Melvin, with your hat-trick predictions. Who's scoring a hat-trick next week, mate? Go on, tell us. Will it be Messi in Ligue 1? Do you reckon I should get Mane and get Tony Mount out? I wouldn't get Mane still, personally. I would rather get Jota. for the time being, and obviously Foden, Son, not Mane. I just don't think he's worth that sort of price. Obviously, he was in good positions today. He's been very good this season, but I just don't think he's worth it. Good evening, Dylan. Thank you, The Flying Dutchman. Good to see you here again. Thank you very much to Fred Red 50 for the super chat. Much appreciated, mate. Roy Hodgson appointed caretaker of Villa just now. Are you serious? Wow. Incredible scenes. And Verstappen's 12 seconds clear. Very incredible. Oh, Verstappen's just chatting crap. Roy Hodgson, seriously? I'm just shocked because he was actually talking about it when he retired. Well, like he was thinking of retiring, you know. I think his last home game was against Arsenal. For Palace, obviously his last game was against Liverpool at Anfield. So yeah, that's wow. That actually might be a smart move. I think he can steady the ship. And he might be very pragmatic though. I'm not sure if that's very good for the wingers like Buendia and the creative ones. But maybe Bay or Eric Bay, Bailey will be good, and also obviously Watkins and Ings. But yeah, you're mainly looking at the defenders maybe there. Is Son a must-have? I'm not necessarily too sure, to be honest. I don't think he's a must-have. I don't think anyone apart from Salah really is, but I think Son is one of the better options around 10 million. Him and Vardy, I still think one of them is good. And once again, Fred Red, thank you very much for that update and the super chat. Much appreciated, as John says. Some crying, saying, cancel on the bench. Think about how bad we cry not captaining Salah when Liverpool played against Man U. Yeah, but then again, you know, both decisions, they're not really the worst decisions I've seen in FPL. Obviously, they didn't turn out the right way. But United, if you look at the stats, they're one of the worst defensively of any team, especially in terms of expected goals conceded. So, Jota, Rafinha and Boomer, pick two. Jota and Rafinha for me. But long term, you probably would want to get rid of Rafinha for a Gallagher. Play Vardy or Rafinha next game week. That's a tough one. At the moment, I'm going for Vardy, but I might actually go for Rafinha, to be honest, mate. Sorry about this question, but my FPL points keep showing nil. That's strange. Maybe the site is kind of acting dodgy. They just updated it, but it should be fine if you refresh it. Maybe use a different browser as well, or if not, use the app. If you're already using the app, then use the website. What do I do to get still the backup keeper at Brighton, or go straight to Ramsdale? Go straight to Ramsdale, in my opinion, I think. I know he's facing Liverpool, but if not, go to Gaeta. Go for Ramsdale, Gaeta. I think long term, it's worth it. Dutchman Rafi captaincy got me 68, quite content. Yeah, fair play, John. That's a really good score and a very good captaincy decision in the end. Salah's a good captain, but Havertz outscores him well in 2 game weeks. Yeah. I think someone actually mentioned, I don't know if it was you, I think it was someone else. They said, I'm not going to stop captaining or, you know, showing faith in Havertz until he outscores Salah. Happened last week and of course this week as well. In Boomer replacements, Gallagher or Smith Rowe for me. Definitely, if I had to pick, it's Gallagher long term. But yeah, I think that's what I would go for. It's not a bad decision keeping in Boomer ahead of Newcastle though. I have Sarr in goal. Is he a keep or who to replace him if not? You don't have to get rid of him, Eddie, but if you are set on it and you have that kind of extra transfer available, I'd go for Ramsdale, Gaeta. And the Flying Dutchman says, yeah, not having Rafinha hurt me the past few weeks. Yeah, but then again, before that he was blanking quite a lot. Don't waste transfers on goalkeepers, fair enough, but I still think if you have that spare one available, you have 2 free transfers, you don't know what to use it on, you don't want to burn one, I think it does make sense. Because of being priced out, is it worth doing Mbeumo to Gallagher early? If you're going to be priced out, I would consider it, to be honest. I think I probably would go ahead with it. If I was in your situation, that's what I would do. It's not really ideal, but if you have the squad depth, let's say, for example, in my team, if I had to do Townsend to Gallagher right now, otherwise I'd be priced out, I probably would still do it. And if, let's say, other injuries, come about, I think I'd be well equipped to kind of deal with them. Obviously, unless I get, 3 or 4 happening, and that has happened in the past in UCL Fantasy and FPL. But short answer is yes, basically. I probably would. I can go from Luis to Gallagher in one move with 0 in the bank, or in Boomer to Gallagher. Jerry, just bear in mind, if you do that, you're going to probably have 8 attackers, I'm assuming. So I'm not too sure if that's the way to go. Obviously, if you like having 8 attackers and you tend to rotate pretty well, you get it right, then fair enough. And it is good to have good squad depth, but you don't have to do Douglas Luiz to Gallagher, to be honest. But I can see why Douglas Luiz is out for several weeks, maybe even in game week 12 too. So I think it's a good move too. In Mbeumo, I probably wouldn't get rid of ahead of Newcastle, but he's been very disappointing, and so is Tony. And if they don't deliver soon, it's just worth getting rid of them. But it ultimately depends on how you want to play it. If you're happy to have 8 attackers, then I go ahead with Douglas Luiz to Gallagher, but you probably would have to do the transfer now. Don't know if you answered this already, but would you change from my team Gaeta, James, Trent, Livramento, Cancelo, Salah, Cornet, Gallagher, Antonio, Kane, Hwang, Ramsdale, Mbeumo, Rafinha, Rudiger? It's a fantastic team, to be honest. I think if you want to get a bit more attacking upside, you could maybe do Rudiger to Chilwell. Doesn't have to be this week, but in the coming weeks, especially if Alonso's still out. I think around game week 16, when Leeds' fixtures turn, you can move from Rafinha to Smith Rowe potentially. Or I think one way you could improve is getting one of Son, Foden or Jota into that midfield. I think that would improve your team, and that might require downgrading Kane. Hwang, let's wait and see, but I still think he's a decent option. But it's a good team overall. I just think maybe getting one of those midfielders I recommended, and Chilwell potentially, but you don't have to. Do I use my transfer on Sanchez goalkeeper, get Antonio or Barry out to get another Chelsea defender, or change Gray? I'd probably change Gray, to be honest, and to Gallagher and Drea. Start Tony and Mbeumo next game week, or start Rafinha? I probably would still start both Brentford players, but if you're not really too sure on them, and I don't blame you, I will probably start Rafinha and one of those players. Probably Tony, but they're not really showing it. Duffy to Region, that could be a good move. Duffy's not going to be in the team long term, I believe, but I think it's a good move. Once again, though, with the Spurs assets, it's a wait and see for me, especially with the fullbacks, and I would rather have, the defenders I have on screen, or Diaz or Rudiger. Please click on the subscribe and like button, guys. Thank you very much, Melvin, and notifications and all. Thank you very much. And as he says, try to smash the like button. It helps out a lot, and obviously it's very much appreciated, and it goes a long way to helping out the channel. Vardy got me 5 points, including captaincy, since I brought him in 3 weeks ago. Yeah, the 3 weeks before that he got 27 exactly, and I believe he even hauled in the week before that. So it's just it's a bit of bad luck. He had that injury in that Brentford game. I think if he didn't get that, he probably would have been on the score sheet. And he probably could have carried that over to the Arsenal game, etc. When you're bringing in Ronaldo for Vardy, maybe around game week 15. But to be honest, I'm looking at other transfers as well. Gallagher in for Townsend. I like my defence, so I'd be happy to keep it as it is. Heung-min Son is also a possibility, but in order to do that, maybe Vardy would have to make way. But then how do I get to Ronaldo? There's a lot of kind of question marks. I think long term, if I'm really being honest with myself, I think Rafinha could be one to make way, because the fixtures are very poor for around 10 game weeks from 16 onwards. Townsend is definitely a weak link. Douglas Luiz, might have to make way. He's injured, and I could maybe just get someone else. Maybe even move 5 in midfield. Vardy, I still think he's one of the best options around his price. Same with Son. You don't have to get rid of him now. And Tony, Tony's just simply not delivering, and he's got great fixtures still. If he doesn't deliver, he's another one to get rid of. So ultimately what I'm saying is Tony, Vardy, Rafinha, Townsend and Douglas Luiz, they're the ones that I look at and think long term, not really sure if I'm going to keep you. I wouldn't mind Vardy too much, or even Rafinha, but Townsend, Tony and Douglas Luiz, they're looking like sells at the moment. So Townsend to Gallagher is an option at the moment, and that's where I'm looking at. Son and Jimenez or Kane and Gallagher? I probably would go for Kane and Gallagher based on the fixtures, and I like Gallagher a lot long term. I sold Vardy at his peak. I try to figure when a player's run will end. Typically that is when the herd buys him en masse. I'm now ready to buy him again with all the selling. Yeah, I think maybe not this week, but the week after. Yeah, that's a really good point. And sometimes that's just, the timing is so important in all aspects of life, but in FPL in particular. Antonio to Armstrong and Alonso to Cancelo instead of replacing Andy for Son. Vardy for Son. Honestly, I think, especially Alonso to Cancelo. Antonio to Armstrong, I still prefer Antonio. Obviously, the fixtures are tough, but yeah. I like Alonso to Cancelo a lot. Bowen actually has to be considered now, yeah. He has blanked once in the last 7, yeah, definitely. And even when he was blanking, he was showing so much promise. So that's a great point. That's a smooth move. Great name. Luck doesn't hurt. Yeah, it doesn't. Dylan, do you offer a members-only chat? Not at this moment in time, but I am thinking of. So I think what I might do, I might have like a public Discord open, but for members only, I'm thinking of making a Discord chat, exclusively for members. So that's actually a really good suggestion, John. Thank you very much for that. Start Vardy or Tony for next week? I probably would say Tony based on the fixture, but ultimately Vardy is fixture proof. Hi Dylan, I got Chilwell, Diaz, Rudiger, Livramento. What to do with Cancelo? I'd either upgrade White to Cancelo, or I would do Rudiger to Cancelo. You've already got. Yeah, you've got Diaz. Oh, Diaz as well. I think, yeah, Rudiger or Diaz, probably. That's what I would do. And if I had to pick one, maybe Rudiger at this moment in time. Yeah, favour, Achara, I did answer your question already. I mean, I'm not too sure about that situation, to be honest. Smash the like button, lads, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, Kobe, for the shout out. Honestly, it will be back to Lukaku for me when he's fit again, maybe. But then again, he's just not really showing that form, is he? Best Rafinha replacements, Gallagher. I think Jota, if you can afford it. Foden. If I had to rank them, obviously Foden's kind of a more unrealistic transfer, but if you can afford him, it's Foden, Gallagher, and then Jota. Jota third because he's probably the kind of most short-term punt of the three. My team: Mendy, Sanchez, Trent, Chilwell, James Cancelo, Livramento, Smith Rowe, Foden, Salah, Tony, Antonio, Hwang, Benrahma, MacArthur. Should I consider Gallagher and getting rid of Mendy? I think so, to be honest. You could, obviously, Mendy's a great keeper and he's showing a lot of promise, but I would just rather have Chilwell and James. You've already got that double up, so I'd do Sanchez to either Gaeta or Ramsdale. Ramsdale would be my preference still. And I would, I'd get Gallagher in the midfield, especially for Benrahma, for example. And it will also give you a bit of money to potentially get a Son in a few weeks' time. Do I play Gallagher or Mbuma next game week? I would probably play Gallagher, to be honest. Is Son worth taking a hit for game week 12 or wait for game week 13? I think it could be worth the hit. He did very well last year. I captained him against Leeds in the same corresponding fixture and he did extremely well. But I think it's worth it, especially long term. But just bear in mind, Spurs are still struggling offensively. Keep Rudiger or bring in Trent, another defender. I like Rudiger still. And maybe keep him for one more week. But I think Trent long term is just better. What do I change? Sanchez, Trent, Chilwell, Duffy, Cody, Ayling, Foden, Salah, Jota, Gray, Sissoko, Antonio, Tony, Vardy. I would change Duffy potentially. Cody and Ayling, yeah, they're the kind of two main ones. So I would do Ayling to Livramento. I would do Cody to Cancelo if you can afford it. Gray to Gallagher. And in order to fund it, let's say you're kind of short, I would look to potentially downgrade a Vardy. I think that's what makes most sense in your situation. Just bear in mind that with Vardy, he could easily do very well after game week 12 or even against Chelsea. Is it still essential to get a Spurs attacker in? I don't think it's essential, mate, because there's Vardy, great fixtures from game week 12 onwards for 4 or 5 game weeks. You have Ronaldo around game week 15. Lukaku will be back from injury. The strikers aren't really showing any sort of consistency at the moment. And in midfield, you've got Foden, you've got Jota, Salah, Rafinha, Gallagher. So, long story short, I don't think they're essential. But I still would recommend, keeping an eye on Son or Kane. One free transfer, by the way, says Andrea. Yeah, I would probably do, the first thing I'd do is, if you have enough money, I'd get either Gallagher in the midfield, or in the defence, I'd be looking to get in a Cancelo. I'm probably keeping Vardy, though upgrading him to Kane was the original plan. Great fixtures after the Chelsea game. Yeah, Vardy's looking really good. I don't want to get rid of him, to be honest. When I say he's looking good, the fixtures are, not himself at the moment. I have 1.9 million in the bank, says Red Gunner. I'm planning to take out Alba for Vardy, or I take out Son for Foden to buy Chilwell and James. Oh, that's tough. I probably would get Vardy in for Aubameyang. I think it's just maybe not this week. It's all about timing. But ahead of game week 12, I'd do that. And if not, you can always just get Kane or Ronaldo in straight away. And I like the other moves as well, potentially. But getting rid of Son, not too sure about that. Chilwell or Diaz? Chilwell for me. But Diaz has the better long-term fixtures. Is it better to make transfers now to prevent price changes? Great question. I mean, normally I'd say wait, because there could be a lot of injuries, especially during international break or even COVID restrictions, and that could put you in a spot of bother. Don't be surprised if you have 3 to 5 yellow flags, orange or red, heading into game week 12. But I think if you're going to be priced out, for example, doing a Townsend to a Gallagher, if you're going to be priced out with one price rise, then I'll just make the move now. Now it's 4 a.m. in Malaysia. Thank you very much, Melvin, for tuning in. And there's so many people from Malaysia. Obviously, very much appreciate everyone from there and across the world watching this. And that's crazy, to be honest. I probably would be sleeping. To be fair, I did wake up at 4 a.m. today, though. Tottenham eye test. Obviously, I'll be honest, I didn't watch the entire game. I was mainly watching the Arsenal game, but I had a screen on, and from the corner of my eye, I think at certain stages Everton were dominating, and Spurs still showed signs of danger on the counter-attack, but still Kane 1 shot, Son 0, and there was one chance Son could have been through on goal, but Kane still is passing, not on it. He's off the pace. But still, I think Emerson and Reguilon were getting into very good positions. I think Emerson could be very good in terms of goals. Obviously, we have to be realistic. He's not going to be a Reece James or someone like that, but he could maybe get 2 to 4 goals this season. And I think Reguilon will get more assists. I think he's the better crosser of the ball out of the two. But ultimately, it's very difficult to judge them this early on. I think Højbjerg looked pretty decent at certain stages of the game. He broke down the play very well. But he's obviously not someone I'd recommend from an FPL perspective. But yeah, I think for me, Lucas is someone I'm not really going to consider. He's not got the end product. It has to be Kane or Son for me, and maybe Reguilon or Emerson. But Spurs still very good defensively, 0.4 XGC against Everton. But it's just one game, and Conte just hasn't had enough time to work with this group of players. So let's wait and see as time goes on. What do you do with the free transfer? I haven't made anything yet, but I think the most likely scenario right now is doing Townsend to Gallagher and then potentially benching Vardy and playing Gallagher in there. So it'd be a 5-3-2. That's what I'm thinking of, but I am open to other ideas. Foster, Chilwell, Rudiger, Livramento, Cancelo, Trent, Salah, Havertz, Mbeumo, Rafinha, Tony, Antonio, Vardy. I would suggest, honestly, Havertz to Foden. You have 0 in the bank, so I don't think you can afford that, but you could maybe do Havertz to Jota or to Gallagher. And another one, yeah, basically I'd get Jota and Gallagher in for Mbeumo and Havertz, but with the one free transfer you have right now, I'd do Havertz potentially to Gallagher. Although Havertz could do alright against Leicester, I'd still probably do that. But yeah, the team's looking good. Would you swap out Rudiger for James or Chilwell? Tough one. I like both James and Chilwell. That's why I got both of them in the last 2 game weeks. You've got Trent, Livramento, Cancelo, and Tsimikas. I think I would probably go for Chilwell, especially if Alonso is out for a prolonged period of time. And another transfer I'd suggest for you, mate, is Tsimikas out for Ben Johnson or maybe Ben White. I think you should do Gallagher right now. I'm thinking about it, mate. I think Townsend out for Gallagher is definitely on the cards. I think with Milivojevic out, Gallagher's looking like his old self again. He's got the underlying stats. He's looking very promising, getting into great positions. He can get those goals and assists. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. I think I would rather have him than Smith Rowe. When does the next wild card come out? Around game week 18 or 19, if I'm not mistaken. So the second half of the season. Last season, I think it was around game week 18 when that happened. Let me just check the F1. Yeah, Verstappen is leading by 16 seconds. Oh, you love to see it, mate. The fastest lap 2. And Perez is 3rd. Great day for Red Bull. Great day. McCarthy, Chilwell, Cancelo, James, Arnold, Livramento, Mount, Salah, Benrahma, Tony, Antonio, Bench, Ramsdale, Sarr, Townsend, Ings. -4 done already. Any tips what to do with this team in the future? It's tough to say. Ings is, I think, out with COVID. He could be a decent option with the new manager, especially, I think it's Roy Hodgson, isn't it? I need to check that myself, but I do trust the judgment from Fred Red. I would, with your team, I like your defence. McCarthy's a good option, just bear in mind the fixtures do turn, and I don't like Southampton double up in general, but I think Mount and Benrahma, I'd probably look to sell them. Well, actually Townsend to Gallagher, I'd look to do that. To be honest, if I'm being completely honest, I don't like your midfield. I would want to get some of these names out. So Gallagher, Jota, Foden, Son. I'd want to get those sorts of names in. And another cheap midfielder you can look at, of course, is Smith Rowe. I'd be looking to get them in. Of course, keep Salah, but the rest I'd be looking to get rid of. As for your defence, it's good, but yeah, I think what was it? Oh no, yeah, your defence is fine, to be honest. I don't think I'd change anything there. I like your goalkeeper still, although I'd prefer Gaeta or Ramsdale. Wait, do you have Ramsdale on your bench? Yeah, you've got Ramsdale. Yeah, that's fine. Your goalkeepers are fine. The main problem with your team, I think, is the midfield. And your attack, you can maybe start to reshuffle your squad and have a placeholder, a premium striker, ready for a Ronaldo or Harry Kane when they come to form, or maybe even a Vardy right now. Gallagher or Smith Rowe, for me, has to be Gallagher. I put a poll out earlier on the channel. I think most people voted for Smith Rowe, but on here, in this live chat, over 400 of you voted, and 51% of you went for Gallagher. So very even, but I think if you look at the fixtures, Palace have better ones. In terms of the underlying stats, Gallagher's also leading in that. He's got more set pieces under his belt. So for me, it has to be Gallagher. But if Milivojevic comes into the side, that's where I think it's more even and maybe Smith Rowe edges it. Thank you, Josh. Is Lukaku likely to return in game week 12? I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think maybe game week 13 or 14. Obviously, I'm no expert. I'm no doctor or anything. I'm just offering my opinion based on the information I've seen so far. I might be giving you a misinformed and a misguided opinion. But right now, based on what I've seen, I probably would say it is possible, but not likely. And if anything, maybe 13 or 14. It depends on if there's any kind of setbacks. Jota plus Kane or Vardy plus Son? Great question. I still would go for Vardy and Son, but I do like Jota and Kane as well. I want to do my free hit, but I am hesitant. Do you do it now? I'm not going to be doing it now, if I'm being honest. I want to save it for a blank or double game week, and that obviously happens when a team blanks when they have a fixture clash with another competition, like for example Chelsea in the Club World Cup. They're going to be missing out in one of their Premier League games, and that means they're going to be having a double game week later on in the in the future. So yeah, I'm going to be using a free hit for a double or blank game week. Benching Vardy just does not feel right. I'd rather have him than see him Hall on my bench and see Gallagher blank. Yeah, true. I mean, benching him, Salah. I think have I ever benched Salah? Maybe once. I might have gotten away with it, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, whenever you bench these players, I saw people benching Ronaldo. I know he got 1 point in the end, but I probably wouldn't have done it myself. Is there any double game week in December? It's a possibility, but I think more so it'll be January onwards, maybe February. But of course, it is a possibility, but I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. Let's wait and see. Ronaldo, Antonio, or Tony Vardy? Great question. I think Ronaldo and Antonio would be my pick. What do you think about Bowen? Fantastic performance today, and one blank in the last 7, as referred to by one of the viewers, and he's looking really good, to be honest. And obviously, it's a kind of difficult time to jump on him because you have so many other options in midfield. You've got Gallagher, Smith Rowe, you've got Rafinha, Heung-min Son, Jota, Foden. But he's looking really good, and if I was on a wild card, I'd definitely consider it. Thank you very much to Kenny Silvera for the super chat. Much appreciated, of course, a member on the channel. Thank you so much, mate. Thanks for doing these streams, Dylan. Gives so much more to my FPL considerations every week. It's awesome. Switching off for today. See you in the next one. Thank you so much, mate. You didn't have to, but obviously much appreciated. Good to see you here once again. And like I said, if I do the members only Discord, I'll let you guys know, and we'll get that ready. Red Bull Racing. Oh, so what happened now? Wait, what? Oh, there's a 1.1 second gap between Perez and Hamilton. Woohoo! Come on, Perez. Still some points of Hamilton. That should be a very good battle. Oh, God. Oh, it's looking sensational. And yeah, once again, thank you, Kenny. And yeah, John, it's looking really good for Red Bull at the moment. But still, very good title fight. Red Bull are in the driver's seat, but let's wait and see. I watched the Brentford match. Tony's not getting any service whatsoever. True. In the weeks preceding that, though, or should I say in the weeks preceding that, he was looking really good, Tony. He was getting into the positions. He just wasn't getting those points, and maybe his finishing was a bit lackluster. But still, I agree. He's not getting too many chances. Are you not planning to switch Vardy to Kane, then Ronaldo later at Game Week 16? It's still a possibility, but the way I see it, I want to actually be addressing my weaknesses first. And yeah, my forward line is a weakness. They're not delivering the points. But then again, who is at this moment in time? I would actually want to have Vardy for the next 5 game weeks. So maybe I'm actually going to go without the Spurs assets. I don't think there's a big rush to get into them because they've got great fixtures up until Game Week 26. They've got a new manager. Might take them some time to get going. Obviously, Vardy does play Chelsea, but the next 4 fixtures after that, very good. And then, yeah, Townsend to Gallagher looks like a simple move. I've got enough money to do that. I like my defence and my goalkeepers. So when I look at this team, I think my midfield could do it with a bit of strengthening, and that's why I've been getting a lot of red arrows recently. So I'm looking to identify those weaknesses and go for it. But yeah, I am considering it, to be honest. Hey Dylan, Verstappen leading plus by 17 seconds on Hamilton. Perez is third. Let's go. Yeah, it's looking like a really good title fight in general, but I'll be honest, I'm tired of the Mercedes domination. I want something different. Plucked 2 goals from set pieces today with Rafinha and Trent. Yeah, 2 great free kicks. After that, I should sell both. Not Trent, I think. Selling Trent, not for me. I think he's just a really good long-term pick. Perez and Hamilton is so close. Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good. Really good fight. I was actually expecting that for first between Hamilton and Verstappen. Ken, you are the man. Indeed. So are you, John, and everyone else here. Thank you very much. Dylan, best differential premium for Game Week 12. I think Kane. Against Leeds at home. You could even captain him. I think it has to be Harry Kane. Cristiano Ronaldo, I wouldn't say he's a differential. I haven't checked his ownership recently, if I'm being completely honest with you. Let me check it, actually. Probably around 20%. Or 31%. Yeah, he's not a differential. For me, it's Kane. Let's check Son. I think he's around 20% maybe. Yeah, just under 20%. Yeah, has to be Harry Kane for me. I know he's been awful this season, but got an assist in the Conference League. Got a shot finally against Everton, but yeah, Harry Kane. Maybe I'm kind of someone's escaped my mind, but has to be the Englishman. We all agree Sky Fantasy Football is better than FPL. Yeah, it's not as popular though, but I do like the fact they have bonus tiers, for passing, tackles, and all of this. They have the Man of the Match award rather than this kind of flawed, in my opinion, bonus system. So there are some things that are better and some things that are worse, but for the most part, maybe, yeah, you've got different captaincy options as well. I was thinking to keep Mbeumo, but then Newcastle got Eddie Howe in now. True, things could look very different in the space of 2 weeks, but then again, Brentford's manager has 2 weeks to sort out Brentford. Yeah, it goes both ways. Eddie Howe's not really known for his defensive acumen. He's known for the attacking philosophy. I think he could actually strike a chord with Matt Ritchie, Callum Wilson, and Ryan Fraser from his time at Bournemouth. But I think, yeah, offensively, Newcastle will see an improvement. Defensively, I think it can't be as bad as they were or as they have been this season. But yeah, I still think Brentford can get at them. There could be plenty of goals in that game. But then again, when it's your first game, you probably want to build on the foundations from the back. So basically, what I'm trying to say is you just don't know what's going to happen. It can go either way. Havertz to Son, Tierney to Omar Bedeli to fund it. I just butchered the name, by the way. I'd rather go for Johnson, honestly. I know he's got poor fixtures and Sufa will probably reclaim his spot, but I would rather go for Johnson. But yeah, I think that's actually a good set of transfers, Nasir. Should I captain CR7? Ooh. If I had... Oh, wait, what? Oh my god. Okay, for a second, my stream just froze and it looked like Verstappen basically, skidded off. Jesus Christ, that gave me a heart attack. Sorry, mate. So, if I had Ronaldo, Kane or Son and Salah, I would actually consider captaining one of those, the Spurs player or Ronaldo. I probably would still go for Salah at this moment in time, but I think it's definitely worth considering going for Ronaldo. I don't think it's a bad week to go against the grain, but Salah against Arsenal, I think it's still a good fixture. Anyone on here remember Telegraph Fantasy Football? It was all we had and sad. Yeah, it's still a thing. People still play it. But yeah, haven't really gotten into it. I haven't really seen it myself, but yeah, it does seem a bit interesting to say the least. Henry, Mbeumo, Townsend, Christensen are my main four to sell. Guys, any suggestions? Townsend, I think, to Gallagher's an easy move, definitely. Mbeumo to Smith Rowe, long term. And if not, if you have enough money, I'd be looking to a Jota or a Foden, especially Foden. Henry to a Livramento if you don't have him already, Ninja, and also Christensen to a Chelsea fullback. Easy moves for me. Aspi to James this week, definitely Vic. I'd do it, to be honest. If not, Chilwell. Thoughts on Rodgers to United? It's a possibility. I think he'll do a better job than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but I still have my reservations about him as a manager, especially for Manchester United. I think United should expect the best, and they should have gone for Conte. Maybe, you could say a clash of ideologies and philosophies, but I probably, I don't know about Rodgers. I think he could be a decent one, but maybe not the best option for the Mancunians. 69 points, including bonus points? Yeah, including bonus points. Breaking, Ollie Fred, Ronaldo appointed interim manager. Ollie Fred, Ollie fired. Yeah, fair enough. Ronaldo was actually one of the favourites. I think it was the 5th or 6th favourite to take over after the Liverpool 5-0. It's crazy. My defence, Cancelo, Trent, Duffy, Cody, Amati, Rafinha, Salah, Smith Rowe, Son, Murphy. My forwards, Tony, Jimenez, Alba. Suggestions? I think Alba to Vardy or Kane or Ronaldo is easily a good move. When the fixtures turn for West Ham, Jimenez to Antonio. Tony, it's a difficult one. I'd maybe give him a bit of patience, but my patience is wearing thin. Murphy is someone I wouldn't want on my team. I like your midfielder overall. But what you could do actually is downgrade Tony to a 4.5 and upgrade Murphy to a Gallagher or someone else like that. Maybe even Foden or Jota or Son. Oh, you got Son already, my bad. Your defence, I like Trent, but Cody and Amati and Duffy, I think that's very weak if I'm being completely honest. If you've got a Red Gunner, I'd be looking to get a Chelsea fullback in. And Chelsea fullback Cancelo. Get those names in and Livramento. So that, I think all of those moves would improve your team. Obviously, it depends on how you prioritise them. I sold Gallagher before the Man City match, then he exploded. Should I buy him back and sell Mbeumo? I don't think that's a bad decision, to be honest. It makes sense why you got rid of him. He had 5-6 blanks in a row. Milivojevic was in the side. It was taking his creativity away, taking his set pieces away. So, getting back in, obviously circumstances have changed. I don't think that's a bad move, so I probably would, even though Mbeumo could do alright against Newcastle. Martinez, White, James, Cancelo, Arnold, Salah, Smith, Rowe, Mount, Antonio, Hwang, Pukki in the bench, Ramsdale, Gallagher, Foden, Cody. I like that, but I wouldn't bench Foden against Everton. I don't think that's wise. I also wouldn't bench Gallagher at this moment in time. I do agree with your selection, though, other than that. Yeah, and also, Ben White. Yeah, you've got James, Cancelo, Arnold, so I'd definitely start Gallagher over Ben White, for sure. No-go area, Kane. Levy stitched him up and Kane is returning the favour. Maybe. It does seem a bit, weird though. I never expected, this situation to kind of arise. I still thought if, Kane stayed at the club, he'd still give it his all. Maybe he is giving it his all, but he's just not at it mentally. So maybe downing tools isn't the right kind of phrase to, throw around. But yeah, at the moment, it's just very difficult to build a case for Kane. Wouldn't surprise me if the Glazers actually did that. Captaincy, Son or Salah. That's a bit difficult. I think I'd be tempted by Son, but I probably would still go Salah. Obviously, it's a difficult one. Salah's just been so good this season. He's only blanked once in FPL, but yeah, I think I would still go for Salah. In this game week, I have 79 and 30 on the bench. That's a really good score. Imagine if you bench boosted. Jesus, but I mean, to be fair, 79 is a great score. Any thoughts on Arsenal not giving the ball back from the throw-in against Watford? Yeah, I saw that was a thing. I saw Ranieri was fuming. I would be too if I was a fan of Watford, but if we're being honest, let's say if Arsenal did the right thing and they were being the fair team, that could have cost them points today. And if we're being completely honest, teams have done that against Arsenal and they've done it against other teams as well, and not much of a fuss has been kicked around. So I don't think it happens in football, and I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Obviously, if I was a Watford fan, I'd think differently, but I think a bit too much has been made of it by Ranieri. Obviously, he's very very emotional after the game, but obviously, yeah. I can see both arguments, but for me, it's not really that much of an issue. Do you think Mount can play next game? Yeah. Obviously, he was on the bench last week because he had a tooth infection. He lost weight because he couldn't eat properly. So that obviously would have, severely hindered his chances of starting. But yeah, I think he could start next game. But I am worried about him long term with Lukaku and Werner coming back into the mix. I don't know when necessarily, but when they do, not too sure. James or Chilwell? I still think Chilwell, especially if Alonso's out, and also Chilwell comes on less often for those one-pointers, but in recent game weeks you have to say James has been better. Start Vardy if I have two Chelsea defenders. I'm in the same situation, mate, and I'm thinking of benching him, but benching Vardy, I mean, look, I did something similar last week where I started Vardy and I benched Ramsdale. I didn't want that kind of conflict in my team, but guess what? I ended up benching the guy who did well. So sometimes, just play your best team and maybe just play Vardy as well. Verstappen's the winner of the Grand Prix, Hamilton second, Perez third. Wow. Amazing scenes. And I like that top 10. Vettel, Raikkonen, Alonso. Great day, great day. Fastest lap? Oh, no. Really? Oh, Bottas, you twat. Yeah, he just stole the fastest lap from Verstappen at the end, but it's just a point anyway. So, yeah, the gap in the championship is, it was 12 points. And what was it now? Quick maths. Yeah, 19, I think. Great. Anyways, Perez within DRS range of Hamilton. Yeah, unfortunately didn't get him, but still good result for Red Bull. Starting from third and fourth, they really showed their pace today. They did kind of screw up qualifying, but a great result in the end. And yeah, well played. Didn't get to see much of it, to be fair though. Best Tony replacements around the same price. I think whichever Southampton striker starts, so Armstrong or Broca. Maybe even Che Adams, but I'd rather have Broca or Armstrong. And I'd have to say Hwang, but the fixtures are very poor, if I'm being honest. Obviously, Pukki, a lot of people are thinking about him now. I'm still not going there. But yeah, I'd probably go for one of those players I mentioned there. Goalkeeper Sanchez for the next 2 game weeks. If it's just for the next 2, I'd probably go for Gaeta, to be honest. I have 722 overall points and ranked 133k after this game week. I'm chasing you, Dylan. Yeah, it's very tight between a lot of us, to be honest. Not playing Rafinha. This is something I made before the Sunday games. So I made these changes on Saturday or Friday, I believe, to my starting 11. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I might play Rafinha over Vardy, but yeah, I'm not comfortable with benching any of them, and that kind of speaks volumes of the squad depth I have, I think. I have 2 free transfers. Which of these players would you consider moving out, and for whom? Vardy, Jimenez, Mbumo, Havertz, Tony, Aspie and Diaz. Aspie out for a Chelsea fullback, whether it's or Cancelo, depending on who you don't have. The same goes for Trent. So Aspie to Trent, Cancelo, or James or Chilwell. And the other move I'd be looking at is probably Havertz to either Gallagher, Foden, or Jota. And if you don't have Foden already, I'd go for him. Captain in Game Week 12, I think it's still between Salah, Ronaldo, Son or Kane. I think those are the best options, to be honest. Let me have a quick look at the fixtures to refresh myself. But that's what I'd probably go for. So Chelsea against Leicester. Not the worst options to captain, but I still don't think it's ideal. Aston Villa against Brighton. I probably wouldn't captain anyone there. Palace against Burnley, yeah, once again, no. Brentford against Newcastle, I'm definitely steering clear of Brentford assets there. Southampton against Norwich, no. Man United against Watford, yeah, I think Bruno, Ronaldo, especially Ronaldo. Wolves against West Ham, I don't think that's an easy fixture. Both teams are in good form. Liverpool against Arsenal, of course, Salah. Man City against Everton, I think that's a great actually fixture for the captaincy. Foden, Cancelo, I think they're two really good options. Also, Gabriel Jesus, he's got a fantastic record, I believe, against Everton. So that's also another one to keep in mind. And of course, Son and Kane, if they can finally get that form, especially with Harry Kane, who's been awful this season. So those would be my options. Kind of a little preview into my preview where I reveal the best 5 captaincy options every single week. That will be made obviously later on. Pick one to start: Cornet, Mbumo or Rudiger. I'd actually start Rudiger based on his record against Leicester, but maybe I'm being a bit foolish there. All of them are good options, of course. Thoughts on Townsend, keep or sell? It's definitely a sell for me, Caroline. Supermax, yeah, Supermax indeed, and he's just been dominant this season. He's been the best driver by far. Is Brentford honeymoon over? Potentially, but I am willing to give them another week or two. I've only got one of them, so I'm not really too invested or fussed about it, but of course, you would expect a bit more. Thoughts on Wilson? I think he could be very good now, actually, under Eddie Howe, so maybe that appointment will increase his appeal even more as an FPL asset, but still a wait and see for me. I don't like his injury record, and I don't like Newcastle in general. How long is Sanchez out for? Only one game week, so don't worry about that too much. What should I do with Rodrigo? I would rather just have Rafinha if you want to cover Leeds, and I'd sell him, honestly. But then again, you look at the other strikers, who can you really go to? So it's a difficult one. You don't have to get rid of him yet. Maybe that's something to do in a few game weeks' time. Who's the better Chelsea fullback? I think Chilwell at the moment, as you say, is a safer option because Alonso is injured at the moment. Reece James is high risk, high reward, as you say, Ninja. They're both fantastic. I think Reece James will just score more goals or get more goal contributions, but they're both fantastic. They're both explosive, and honestly, looking at the game against Burnley, both of them should have got more goals or more, contributions. They created a lot of chances. Reece James put in some fantastic crosses other than the one for the assist, and Chilwell got into some fantastic offensive positions. And I think it was a case of some of the strikers and forwards like Hudson-Odoi just being a bit greedy, to be honest, and even Havertz. So I think on another day they could have gotten big points, both of them. I would rather go for Chilwell. I said this before, Game Week 11, where Chilwell outscored him, or should I say James outscored him again, before Game Week 10, before Game Week 9. I like both of them a lot, but if I had to pick one, it'd have to be Chilwell, especially with Alonso out. Should I take a hit to get rid of Sanchez? No, I wouldn't take a hit for a goalkeeper. I just play Foster. I don't expect too many points there, but maybe he can rack up a few saves and get you 1 to 3 points. But I honestly wouldn't take a hit there. Yeah, 29 points in the bench is a bit frustrating, but it happens sometimes. Gallagher versus Cornet versus Smith Rowe. I like Cornet, and Smith Rowe obviously is a very good player. He's adding goals to his game, but Gallagher, it has to be Gallagher for me. Sanchez suspended until 27th of November. Does he mean he'll play in Game Week 13? That's a weird one because I was told that he was suspended for 1 game week. Let me double check that for you, mate. But maybe he is. Yeah, it says until 27th of November. That's a weird one. I think there's this rule. Yeah, obviously assuming. Let's see. For some reason I was looking until game week 27. Yeah, not until February, mate. Yeah, so. No, yeah, that's fine. He's missing 1 game week, basically. He's suspended for the Villa game, and he's coming back for 13. So, yeah, he's only suspended for 1 game, as I said. Yeah, I thought there was a glitch or something, or maybe a misconception there. No, it's completely fine. Only 1 game week missed. Mbuma to Son for free next week. Currently have 2, double Brentford attack. Other midfielders are Salah, Son, Foden. Salah, Foden, Jota, Smith Rowe. Yeah, I actually would do it. I think that's a really good move. Yeah, Mbuma might do well, but I think it's worth it. Just do it, I think. If not, you could get Gallagher and then upgrade your attack, but I think that's worth it, Apologies, a little water break. I've been drinking a lot of water recently. Needed it. And yeah, we've been going on for an hour and 50 minutes. So thank you very much to everyone who's still here. Is bringing Son a good idea? I still think it is. But then again, do you need him? No. You've got Salah. You've got Jota right now. Foden. Gallagher, Smith Rowe. You've got so many options. Rafinha. You don't have to get Son. But I think around 10 million, him and Vardy are the best. Thoughts on Hwang to Broca? I probably wouldn't do that yet because Broca just literally came back from injury. He came off the bench. So will he start again? Maybe not. I don't think you have to make that move. And Hwang has some good fixtures coming up until that big fixture swing in Game Week 14. I got 3 Chelsea defenders. It killed me when I saw Burnley scored that lucky goal and I had Cancelo and Livramento on the bench. Yeah, that's why though. I don't like tripling up on defences. I doubled up on them, James and Chilwell. And I think that's good. I think a triple up is a bit excessive if I'm being completely honest with you. Of course, in certain weeks when Chelsea get that clean sheet, that's a way of you differentiating yourself from the rest of the pack. But ultimately, I think long term, it's just better to have 2 Chelsea defenders rather than 3. Take a hit to get some. It depends who you get rid of, Joseph, but I think it's a good move to be fair in general. I have Kane and Son. Should I sell one? Not ahead of Leeds. I just keep both of them, analyse them. You've got both of them in already. And if, one of them, shows really bad form over the next few and you get someone like Foden, Jota that you just can't go without, then get them in. I'm just here to remind you, chatter players, to trust your instincts and do what you feel. If you don't, sleep becomes difficult. Yeah, sometimes just following your intuition and, your gut feeling is the way to go, to be honest. That's a good point. Gutted that my captain Tony blanked. Veering away from Salah cost me. Yeah, but to be fair, what was a difference of 4 points? You're a bit unlucky that Tony also got a yellow card in the opening segment of the game. But yeah, Tony captain, I don't know, obviously I mentioned him in my preview. I thought he's a decent captaincy option on paper, same with Mbeumo, but they're not showing it at the moment. And either way, Salah really wasn't the best captaincy option this week, was he? Trent did better. Of course, James. Who else? I mean, so many options, so many differentials. Smith Rowe, Gallagher, etc. But yeah, it's kind of the week to go different, just maybe not with the player you went. Creswell says group. Is Palace really that strong? Look, I expect them to have experienced a little downturn in form, but they are a good team, I think. They've got a lot of young players. It's a bit like Arsenal. I think they're at different stages, though. Arsenal are obviously, they've got more resources, they've got better quality players, but they're a bit similar, I think. Young players, young manager. They've got a long-term project. They're showing signs of improvement. But I think, let's wait and see first. But yeah, I think Palace could finish top half. But I wouldn't be expecting them to challenge for the European places. 22 points on my bench. Cancelo, Diaz, Antonio, 56 in total. Yeah, I mean, still not too bad. 56 is a respectable score. And 22 points on my bench. Yeah, I got 20, I think. So, it happens. Duffy to Johnson to get in Jota for Rafinha. I think that's a good move, Brandon. But you don't have to get rid of Rafinha yet. By Game Week 16, though, you probably want to do that. I don't have a second playing keeper. Do you think I should get Foster or should I get rid of Sanchez? I ultimately prefer Ramsdale and maybe Gaeta over Sanchez anyway because of the ability to accumulate saves and bonus points. So I'd probably go there instead. But then again, long term, maybe just having Foster and Sanchez you already kind of cover all bases there. Are you sure about benching Rafinha? No, if I'm being honest, Baraka. This is something I did before the games over the weekend, so it's something I might change. But then again, who am I going to drop to the bench? Vardy. I know he's facing Chelsea, but he could do well. Antonio against Wolves, I'm not benching. Tony against Newcastle, one of the best fixtures on paper, but one of the least informed players. So maybe he's the one. Salah never, Foden never, Cancelo no chance, Trent no chance, and double Chelsea maybe one of them, but that could just backfire either way. Livramento against Norwich, I wouldn't be surprised if Norwich do score, but I probably won't be benching Livramento to be honest. 62 knots, 56, even better, mate. That's a good score. Who should I replace Son with? Do not replace Son, mate. Keep him. Don't get rid of him, I think. If he continues to do badly, for 3 or 4 more weeks, then yeah, but not now. I do my free transfer now or after matches. If you're going to be priced out and you're going to, get a really good upgrade that you need for your team, then make the transfer now. But in most cases, just wait for the press conferences, wait for the international break to be over. Kane or Salah? Who you pick as captain and vice captain? I'd still go Salah, but this might be a really good week to go for Kane and the differential captain. I literally picked blank captain 4 weeks in a row. I think my jinx is just insane. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a jinx going as well. So, for example, I got Diaz in, no clean sheets, nothing at all. Got rid of him, clean sheet against United, and yeah, I mean, as soon as I get another Chelsea defender in to get double, clean sheet wiped out in the last few minutes against Burnley. A bit unfortunately, you could say. Who else? I think Vardy. I mean, to be fair, this is kind of, a lot of people did this. I'm not a victim or anything. But as soon as I brought him in, 4 points across 3 game weeks is absolutely insane. And before that, he got 27 and 3. It is what it is, Diaz to James or hold. I did that move, Genius Gamer, last week, and I got 1 point from it. But I think Diaz is still a good long-term hold. But I think James is still, that attacking potential is insane. I have Cancelo and Chilwell. Should I do Townsend to Gallagher? I do Townsend to Gallagher in your situation. I think that's a bigger upgrade, mate. Rudiger tends to score against Leicester. Is he a good option? Yes, but I wouldn't be bringing him in because if any Chelsea defender, if there was anyone I'd be looking to bring in, it's James or Chilwell, and of course Cancelo, Trent, etc. But if you have him, don't get rid of him this week. Maybe get rid of him the week after. Hi guys, I'm a Darlington FC fan. We were made bankrupt in 2011, then reformed in 2012. We were demoted 4 leagues and now currently a fan-owned National League North club. Wow, I actually never heard of them if I'm being honest. Well, maybe I have heard of them, but it's been a long time since I have. And it's good to see. Obviously, it is a shame when these clubs experience financial turmoil, like Bury, for example. But it's good. Hopefully you get a recovery. Maybe do a Bournemouth, and you go from League Two. Obviously, you're not in there yet, but you go from there all the way into the Premier League. McCarthy versus Gaeta. I prefer Gaeta. Obviously, we don't know much yet. It's difficult to say. They're both great options. And they're both similar, but I would prefer Gaeta at this moment in time. Do you think Steele will start next match? I believe so, but don't be surprised if it's not him. I think they actually signed a goalkeeper from Ajax. They might go for him instead. Okay, who would you pick as replacement for Sanchez? Ramsdale or Gaeta? McCarthy's also a good one, but those first 2 are my top picks. What's the Antonio situation now? Honestly, look, he's been very disappointing, but I still am going to keep him, I think, because I'm looking at the rest and they're not really showing enough. And Antonio's stats for the season are insane. Obviously, if he continues to blank and blank and blank, even into the good fixtures, then yes, I would be considering to get rid. Should I take a hit to go from Diaz to Cancelo? It's a bit different there because, it's a bit like, getting rid of a Christensen for a Chelsea fullback. I think it could be worth that hit because of the attacking upside. But Diaz is still a good option. You don't have to. I think he could actually do well against Everton, could even notch a goal. But long term, I think Cancelo's worth the hit so long as he stays nailed in that team, which he should. RE formation, is 5 defenders and 5 in midfield possible, or does 1 forward have to be played? That's a good question. Let me actually show you now, but I'm pretty sure you can't do a 5-5-1. No, yeah. You have to play 1 forward. Obviously, 10 outfield players, 1 goalkeeper. You can play a 5-4-1, you can play a 4-5-1, but you can't play a 5-5-0, of course. You have to have 1 forward. Basically, in terms of eligible formations, you have to have at least 3 defenders, at least 2 midfielders, and at least 1 forward. That's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm sending love from sunny Florida. It'll come good. Thank you very much, John. Rainy Britain. But yeah, it was very sunny to be fair in recent days, and a bit surprising considering in November. But yeah, Florida, nice place to be fair. You're the god of jinx, mate. Thank you very much. Last season, I'm not sure if you know the story, the legendary story. Oh god, the defender transfers, mate. What can I say? So what was it? I think I had Chilwell. I looked at City's fixtures and I was like, these lot are going to keep a lot of clean sheets. As soon as I get Diaz in, they face West Brom. What happened? He scores an own goal. And then I got rid of Diaz for Chilwell. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's a sign I made a mistake. I knee-jerked that transfer. I got Chilwell in, and guess what? He gets injured. I think it was against Aston Villa. Oh my god. And it was just before the 60th minute mark, and I think they were keeping a clean sheet. I think they won 3-0 that game. So basically there was a stage where whichever defender I would get in, I think Dallas as well, all these defenders, they would literally blank, get injured or something like that would happen. But yeah, hopefully I'm not. What's your chip strategy? My first full season in fantasy, top 900k, advice on how to climb up rank without being too erratic. Great questions. In terms of chip strategy, it's difficult to say because we don't know the fixture schedule yet. Keep an eye on the blanks and doubles. That will play a big part in how you go about it. So the way I want to go is triple captain Salah, and I'm looking at it. Are you going to be facing Norwich at home or a double game week, which is obviously formed when a team has a blank game week, which is caused by a conflict with another competition like the Carabao, the Club World Cup, the Champions League, etc. It tends to be the kind of domestic competitions, FA Cup in January, of course, as well. And when that happens, that forms a double game week in the future. And that's when I want to be using the triple captain and as well as the bench boost. So we got a second wildcard to come around game week 18 or 19, I believe. You can actually use your second wildcard to then bench boost. And the reason why that's so effective is because you can essentially build a team of 15 players with 2 games. So obviously that maximizes your potential for even more points. So that's a very good strategy, wildcarding it into a bench boost, and also triple captaining in a double game week, of course. Both games will count towards their score for that particular week, so more chances for returns. Imagine if Salah, for example, plays Norwich and Newcastle at home or something. That's ridiculous. And also for the free hit, you can also use that for a double game week. There'll be plenty along the way. There'll be some major doubles, there'll be some smaller ones, but you can also use it for a blank game week where you might not really want to be using free transfers to, prepare yourself for a blank game week because it only benefits you for that particular week, if you know what I mean. So a free hit will literally just kind of facilitate that, and you'll be able to kind of make transfers for the long term whilst using that chip to nullify the blank game week, and then being well prepared for pretty much every single week. Obviously it's difficult to do that, and if we're being honest, there's always going to be one week where you're going to fall short. Maybe you're not even going to be able to field 11, or you're not going to be in a strong position, but ultimately you can prepare for most of them very well, and the chips are there for that. Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much, group, for tuning in. Very much appreciated. Bring in Trent or Son. I still think Trent long-term is a really good choice. Obviously, I like Son as well, but it has to be Trent for me. I know this isn't a Prem-based question, but do you think you use your fantasy wildcard in matchday 5 is a waste? I don't think it's a waste, but I'd rather use it for a long-term basis. So either in match days 3 or 4, or in the knockout stages. So we're looking at match days 8, 9. Well, I'd actually say 9, because wildcarding in match day 8 would be very foolish. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of players might get eliminated from that point onwards. So you want to be wildcarding from the quarterfinals onwards. So in your situation, if you're happy with your team, I would honestly use the wildcard around match day 9, 10 or 11, which is basically the quarterfinals or semi-finals, because you're in a good position where a lot of people might be struggling because a lot of players are knocked out and clubs, but you have that wildcard in your back pocket. Obviously, we do have unlimited transfers heading into match day 7 or round of 16 first leg, but that is still a big plus. Surprised to see a Darlow fan in here. Are you another one? Yeah, that'll be very... I'm a Bournemouth fan, says Hosper. Oh yeah, so you will know a lot about Eddie Howe, of course, and I think Eddie Howe could do a decent job at Newcastle. What about Bowen and Fornals? Yep, Fornals was very good today. Very unlucky not to have that goal. Count for himself, the one from Alisson's own goal. I prefer Bowen. I think just from the eye test, even from the early game weeks where he was blanking, he was looking so good. His underlying stats are very impressive. But Fornals is also good. He loves playing against Liverpool. I think he scored against them. Was it last season or 2 seasons ago at Anfield? I think it was 2 seasons ago, actually. And that was actually just before Liverpool lost that unbeaten streak to Watford in the end. Dylan, important question. What's for dinner in London tonight? I'm not too sure, actually. It might be Italian. Not sure what Italian, to be honest, but I'll find out very soon. I haven't eaten yet. Obviously, most people in Britain, they eat around 7 p.m. or 5 p.m, their dinner. I tend to eat around 9 or 10 because, it's kind of like Spanish, South American style. What football does Howe play? That's a good question. Well, he plays offensive football. He likes to use the wings a lot, so that's why Ryan Fraser at one point had a fantastic season. I think he had double digits in goals and maybe assists as well. Callum Wilson was a very big part of his plans, and he was a really big part of Bournemouth's success when they finished 9th, actually. And with Eddie Howe, defensively, I think they will be susceptible, especially with Newcastle. They don't really have great defenders, and I don't think he's going to be focused on, making them watertight. But with him, I think Newcastle will show more attacking promise, and I think they show a bit more consistency, and they'll be on the front foot more often than they were under Steve Bruce. But I think Hosper would actually be a better person to ask. He is a Bournemouth fan, and he did watch them for several years. I don't have a goalkeeper this week. -4 to get either McCarthy or Gaeta. Great question, Kai Havertz. I would rather go for Gaeta, but I do like McCarthy too. And you can always cover Southampton defence with Livramento, but I do like both of them, to be honest. Is it normal that strikers are struggling so much? Is football changing? Are more opportunities to score given to defenders, midfielders now? Great question. Obviously, we do have this whole debate with false nines. You've got Foden, at City, Trossard at Brighton at the moment. That's a good question. I just think it's a bit of a form thing. It's a bit of timing. A bit of bad luck as well. Antonio and Vardy were looking like must-haves at the beginning. I still think they're two of the best options. Kane is just having a nightmare of a season. Even you could argue in the Euros, he was not really at it. But then, look at UCL Fantasy, for example. Look at Lewandowski, Haller, Haaland, Mbappe. You've got so many options there. It's just in the Premier League where, you've got Lukaku, Ronaldo, all these options. They're not really cutting at the moment. But to answer your question, I think defenders and midfielders are becoming more valuable based on the striker's lack of form, and more of these cheap options around 5.5 like James, Gallagher, etc. They're showing great value, but ultimately the strikers are still good, but you don't have to have 3 of them. I think 2, you could easily go 3-5-2 or whatever and just have a bench fodder third striker. But I still think it's not really a case of strikers not really being as important in football overall. I think they might just do more dirty work. Look, Antonio today, he was a big part of 2 of the goals, but you're not going to get the assist for it, are you? Thoughts on Kane? He got a shot today, a big improvement, from recent weeks. Spurs still didn't have any shot on target, I believe, against Everton. Son had 0 shots. Kane nearly played Son through, but the pass was wayward, and he did create a big chance. I think Kane could get into some form. I think Conte will get a reaction out of him, but it's kind of more of a hypothetical thing. We're looking at Kane, he's one of the best strikers in the world. We're looking at Conte, one of the best managers in the world. You want, or you expect something to give, but it's not a guarantee, of course. But I think he will come good. But based on what we've seen so far, not too promising. I can't wait for the second wild card. Yeah, same. I'd like to have it in the back pocket. It's a nice safety net just in case. But at the same time, I don't want to, play it early. I think sometimes I play it too early, to be fair. And maybe if I waited a week or 2 later, I would have been able to get in on James and Chilwell early without taking hits. Maybe Foden, Son, Jota, etc. I was a bit unfortunate, I'd say, in my wild card because Son was diagnosed with COVID, a false positive test. But in the end, Son hasn't been that great since then, to be fair. Do you think it's time to switch to 5 defenders, always the formation? Not for me, because you're relying too much on clean sheets all the time. And also, let's say, for example, Livramento, we all agree, is the best kind of budget defender, right? Well, let's look at his fixtures very soon. They're very poor. So Norwich away next, that's good. But then Liverpool away, Leicester at home, Brighton at home, Arsenal away. Palace away is not an easy fixture. Brentford at home could be decent. But then West Ham away, Tottenham at home. So basically, you're not really going to be wanting to play Livramento most of the time, are you? Then you have Ben Johnson. Tough fixtures for the next 3 or 4. They face Chelsea and Man City very soon. So you don't want to go for him. Ben White, look at them. They face Liverpool away next. So what, do you want to go maybe for a Diaz instead of Livramento, go really big at the back? I don't think it's worth it. I think just have 3 or 4. Even 4 is pushing it. You're relying so much on those clean sheets. But in terms of having 3 or 4 premium or mid-price defenders, I think it is worth it. And you can, like in Game Week 12, play 5 at the back, but long-term, not a viable strategy for me. How's Wolves' form now? Well, they're still in good form. They're one of the most informed teams in the league. I think they just came off the back of 5 wins in a row. They just lost to Palace. But still, I think they're a decent team. From an FPL perspective, it's a bit weird. I like Jimenez and Hwang, but other than that, I don't like their assets too much, if I'm being completely honest. Maybe Pedro Neto when he's back fit. But yeah, at the moment with Wolves, from an FPL perspective, not really feeling them too much. The fixtures are very poor from 14 onwards, but they are a good team and they're in good form. But will they finish top half? Maybe not. Vardy to Ronaldo. I can see why you're doing it, and you are preparing yourself for the future, but you could maybe just hold Vardy up until Game Week 15-16, then make that switch. Thanks for the Saka to Smith Rowe. Lol, kind of paid off. A bit lucky there though, Martin. I'm saying that in terms of the advice I gave, because Saka did get a goal disallowed, but yeah, I prefer Smith Rowe. He's just been showing more this season, and he's been the better player, I'd say, since December, since he's come into the side. Currently got Tony, Antonio Jimenez. Think I need to change thoughts. Obviously, the temptation would be to get rid of Tony. And Tony's got the worst fixtures of the 3 right now, but then from 16 onwards, they're very good. I'd probably get rid of Jimenez, but Tony, of course, is very, I'd say tempting to get rid of him. On dinner in the US, we get around 6 or 7. Went to Chile 9 p.m. meals. I was the only bloke in the restaurant at 7. Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much a South American thing. And I think in Spain it's even worse. You know, some people eat at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. That's why sometimes you see like these La Liga games going on very late. So they'll have their dinner and they'll watch La Liga, and they'll have a game end at 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Staffers thought I was kidding. Yeah, it's a kind of cultural thing, isn't it? Get Son for Mount, or get Bowen and Bernardo Silva instead. Son for Mount, Joseph. Is sticking with Mbeumo really a good choice given we have the likes of Gallagher and Smith Rowe? Honestly, despite the fixtures, I'd still rather have Smith Rowe over Mbeumo. And because Gallagher has both the form and the fixtures and the means to continue, I think Gallagher is just a big upgrade. And I'd do it. I'd still do the move even though Mbeumo faces Newcastle. Also, get Son in. I still think so, Leroy. I still think so. But you don't have to. You can go for Jota, Foden. I really like Foden. Rafinha's decent for the next few, but I wouldn't be bringing him in right now, to be honest. And of course, we're looking at Gallagher, who I think for the long term is a chef's kiss. Amazing transfer, I think. Remember, and I know that wasn't a chef's kiss, by the way. Remember, I said before, I'm investing my money on defence instead of expensive strikers. Yeah, fair enough. And at the moment, it's proving to be the right thing. But then, what if in a few weeks' time, you know, Chelsea stop keeping clean sheets? And what if, you know, Antonio starts firing again? Vardy, Ronaldo, Kane, they all get into form. Lukaku comes back. It's kind of a thing of cycles, I think. Mbeumo out. Obviously, you can keep him, but if you sell him for a Gallagher, yeah, it might backfire this week, but I think it's worth it in the long term. Have 2 free transfers, thinking of going from Grealish to Gallagher or Jota and Vardy to Kane. What do you think? All good transfers, Ben. But I think I would go from Grealish to Gallagher, and it gives you enough money to upgrade elsewhere. For example, Vardy to a Kane or a Ronaldo in a few weeks' time. And you can also get Jota into your midfield. Do you think transferring Tony for Broca is a good option? Because that money can come in handy. Yeah, mate, it can. But the problem, like I alluded to earlier, is that Broca just came back from an injury. And with Armstrong and Che Adams' partnership and their form, are they going to be benched for Broca? So expect some one-pointers for the Albanian striker. But of course, if he does nail that spot in the starting 11, which he was doing before his injury, then of course he's a fantastic option and potentially a game breaker. And he could be that striker who's showing form and everyone else is more expensive. They're not really, you know, getting the goals. If you could pick one, Chilwell or James, Chilwell. As I said before, game week 11, 10, 9, etc. It's still Chilwell for me, but I like James a lot. It's 50-50, arguably. But because Alonso is out at the moment and because Chilwell doesn't get those one-pointers as often, has to be him. Rudiger to James for a -4. Normally, I'd say yes because James has that attacking threat, but Rudiger has a fantastic record against Leicester, scored against them last season and the season before, under Lampard and Tuchel respectively. So honestly, I probably wouldn't because, you know, sometimes these things come into play. But in the long term, yeah, James is probably worth it. But Rudiger's also a good choice. Mount to Gallagher, definitely. It's Arif. Will Firmino be back after the international break? I can't tell you for sure. We don't know yet. But based on, you know, the kind of news on the noise coming out of the club, it doesn't seem too promising. So I think he could be out for game week 12. Maybe he'll be back, but there's a possibility. I think it's more likely than not that he's out for game week 12 and maybe for a few more weeks after. Harvey Barnes a good option. Obviously, he got his first goal today, but still not for me. If Leicester, you know, continue with this team, you know, where they only have one striker up front and it's Vardy, I think Barnes will benefit. And I think he's actually got one of the most goals and assists combined since the beginning of last year, I believe. Obviously, Salah's top. You know, what a surprise. But yeah, Barnes can be a good option. He's a streaky player, but I probably won't go for him because guess what? You've got Jota, you've got Foden, Gallagher, Smith Rowe, Rafinha. There's so many different choices. Son. So I don't really think you need him. Even Bernardo's looking like a good option this year. Do transfers now before price rise or wait until international break is over? Simple answer is if you can afford it, wait until the international break is over. If you have to make the transfer, otherwise you'll be priced out and you really want this transfer and it will improve your squad, then I'll go for it, especially if you have the squad depth to cope with any injuries. Hi, new to the stream, what do you think about Havertz to Jota or Havertz to Son and say Max to Broca for a -4? I like those moves, but once again with Broca, he might not be in the starting 11 and he might not be worth that hit, especially if you're starting Broca. But I do like Havertz to Jota and I like Havertz to Son. But obviously, yeah, you can obviously only do one. You can't obviously duplicate Havertz there. But I still would rather have Son long term than Jota. But for the next few, of course, Jota could offer great value. But I probably would just make one transfer, to be honest. They're all good. I'm assuming Jota to Havertz or should I say Havertz to Jota is for free, and the other moves is for a -4. So I can understand it, but honestly, I'd probably just do Havertz to Jota at this point, but I do like Son a lot. Think I should do Rafinha to Gallagher for Game Week 12? You could, to be fair. You either get rid of Rafinha now or ahead of Game Week 16, but long term, Gallagher should outperform him over the next 10 to 15. Potential problem transferring before an international break is potential injuries, exactly. But if you do have enough depth, then you can cope with it. But of course, ideally, you'd want to wait. Are Foden and Vardy overhyped? I disagree, mate. I know Foden's been blanking in the last two, but look at his performances. Very close to scoring against United. Man of the match midweek against Club Brugge in the Champions League. Against Palace, got a goal disallowed. Should I say an assist disallowed for Jesus. I think Foden's been spectacular. I think he's been a bit unlucky. You can't just look at points and think, oh, he's either a hit and miss or whatever. And if you look at forwards, Vardy's still the top scorer, the second top scoring striker. So not for me. And they've both got the fixtures to come good. And I think Foden against Everton can do extremely well. And Vardy, maybe not this week, but I think next week will do very, very well. Who do I bench between Tony and Mbeumo Livramento? I would probably be tempted to bench one of the Brentford attackers at this point, to be honest. But it's a bit of a difficult one. Maybe Mbeumo, but that could easily backfire if I'm being completely honest with you. So maybe don't take my advice there. 4 to 6 weeks for Firmino. I haven't seen that news yet, but I wouldn't be too surprised. Klopp has spoken probably since the game has ended, so I might not have the most up-to-date information, but like I said, I don't expect them to be back for Game Week 12 anyway. Do I take a hit for Cancelo? It depends who you get rid of, Andrea, but I think it's worth a hit. Do you think it's time to go for 5 midfielders given all the strikers having a stinker? I've talked about this. I think it is possibly worth it, but once again, don't be surprised if Vardy comes into form with those fixtures coming up. Ronaldo as well. Lukaku comes back and he's firing. Also, let's say Tony finally gets his shooting boots. I think that might be a bit less likely. Antonio with those fixtures coming up in 16. Jimenez has a few decent ones up until 14. So don't be surprised if next week in Game Week 12 we're all just banging on about strikers again. Calvert-Lewin and Bamford, when they're back fit, they're also in the mix. But ultimately, to answer your question, I think going 5 in midfield is actually worth it as well. Tony and Mbeumo or Antonio. To start, I would probably just start Antonio over the free, to be honest. Do we get a new bench boost at mid-season? No, you only get a new wild card. All the other chips are just once. You can only use it once and that's it. As players, I think we need to consider out-of-form players that will come good. Saka's been very close. Vardy getting sold. Yeah, I agree. Antonio on a good side. Ronaldo for talent. Mount the same. Yeah, I'm not sure about Mount too much. Obviously, I like him if he starts and he plays in one of those front three roles, but that's not going to happen too often, I think. I agree with the rest, though, and I think you make a very good point. And it's about identifying those players early, before people get on them, before they even show form themselves. And if they have those underlying stats to kind of, give you more than just the eye test to kind of, really back that decision, then it's really good, really. Hi, Dylan. In your opinion, who's better, Mount or Bernardo Silva? At this moment in time, I have to say Bernardo Silva, but I think Foden's better than both. Should I sell Ronaldo and Smith Rowe to get Son and Jesus? I probably wouldn't do that, mate. I know Smith Rowe's got some tough fixtures coming up, and Ronaldo does too, but Watford away, would you sell Ronaldo ahead of that, really? But obviously, I can see why you're doing it, and Son and Jesus is a good duo, but ultimately, I'd rather have Foden to cover City attack. Chilwell or James, or both of a Cancelo? Chilwell, and I'd have Cancelo. I wouldn't have both of them over Cancelo. And look at City's fixtures for the next 10 to 15 game weeks, and I think City will probably keep more clean sheets. So really, all of them good options. Pick whoever, but I'd probably go for Chilwell, especially if Alonso's injured, and Cancelo. Bench Duffy versus Aston Villa or Hwang versus West Ham. That's a tough one. Maybe Hwang, but that's a tough one. I probably would reconsider that. I probably wouldn't expect Duffy to keep a clean sheet there anyway. He might not even start. On a wild card, would you take Sanchez out for Ramsdale? Yeah, if not for Gaeta, John. Andre, you took a hit yesterday for Cancelo, says John. Yeah, fair enough, yeah. My rank game from 1.2 million to 130k now with only 4 game weeks time because I just don't trust anything experts say. I make my own moves like Chilwell, James Brocker, and now all paid off. Fair enough. I mean, obviously, I don't claim to be an expert anyway. I just offer my own opinions, and sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're right. But yeah, ultimately, that's the main thing, I don't think any experts or, very good FPL managers would even say that. They give their own opinions or advice, but ultimately it's up to you, the player, to make your own decisions, and that's how you improve as a manager. Should I get rid of Sanchez, even though I have backup Brighton goalie? I probably still would, to be honest. I'd rather have Ramsdale and Gaeta for those extra points from saves and bonus. Any force on Mane? Look, he's a really good option in general, but Salah's just a little bit more, and he's far better. And you can just cover Liverpool attack with Jota. So why go for Mane? And then you look at Foden, Son, Gallagher, etc. You don't need Mane, and also it blocks a move potentially to a Son, Vardy, Ronaldo, etc. So not for me. When do you think you're going to use your free hit? During a blank or double game week, so I can't tell you exactly when, but during one of those weeks, I think. Should I start Ramsdale and Smith Rowe, or should I risk Gallagher and Cornet? I would start Gallagher and Cornet in for them, to be honest, yeah. But, I guess so. I probably would start them. Salah captain at home versus a resurgent Arsenal. Which are the captaincy options? Ronaldo, Son, Kane. I think those are the best next ones, to be honest. And Salah is still a fantastic option. I know Arsenal have been good, but you still expect Salah to score. I'm probably going to bench boost too risky with Mbeumo and Tony on the bench against the out-of-form Newcastle, but they do have a new manager, though, to be fair, Eddie Howe. I'm currently eyeing Reguilon, Lamptey, Cornet, Gallagher, Smith Rowe. Yeah, so am I, to be honest, despite me kind of talking down Lamptey and Reguilon, but believe it or not, I am thinking about them. It's just I like the other defenders better, to be honest. Force on Cornet, I think he's Burnley's best attacker this season, and I think he could be really good, to be honest, but I'm looking at Gallagher. I think he's just the kind of best long-term budget midfielder. Sell Tielemans to Rafinha. I wouldn't get Rafinha now because he's got Tottenham, and look at the fixtures from Game Week 16 onwards. I don't think it's the time to get Rafinha, but if you have him, you can possibly keep him. Should I do Diaz to Trent? Already got Livramento, Cancelo, Rudiger, Christensen. That's a tough one. I probably would, but just bear in mind, City will probably keep more clean sheets than Liverpool this season, but Trent is just on another level. Look at today, 3 goals conceded, and he's still got 3 bonus points, goal and an assist. Maybe a bit fortunate, but still. Got 65 points, W or L? W for me, to be honest. Start Tony or Gallagher? I'd honestly start Gallagher at this point, but obviously I can see why you'd start Tony. Laporte to Reguilon, is it worth it? I think so. But once again, with Spurs, I'm kind of more of a wait and see. I know they've shown a bit of promise today. Reguilon and Emerson were very good today from the attacking wing-back positions. They get into some very good situations, but their end product still leaves a bit to be desired. You've got James, Chilwell, all these options I keep talking about, but it's still a good option. But Brighton defence looks inconsistent recently. That's true. That's a very good point, and I'm not really too concerned about going off them. Thoughts on the team? Sanchez, Foster, Trent, Diaz, Livramento, Chilwell, Foden, Salah, Smith Rowe, Tony, Vardy, Antonio. That's a good team. You don't really need to make a transfer. You could arguably bench Sanchez and play Foster, but if not, you could arguably go Sanchez to a Ramsdale or a Gaeta. Other than that, I honestly wouldn't change too much in this squad. Maybe just consider getting Gallagher in there. But yeah, obviously Tony's the kind of big talking point at the moment. But I probably would... if Tony keeps on blanking, he's the kind of main guy to get rid of. Yeah, dinner time. Yeah. What do you think about doubling on Spurs attackers, Son and Kane? I just go for one for the time being, and then if they show a lot of form, then I go for it. You convinced me to play Cancelo this game week. Just want to say thanks. You saved my ass. No problem, mate. Obviously, it's just my opinion. And Cancelo showed great form in the Champions League, hat-trick of assists, and he's just that sort of player. When he's in that mood, he is one of the best fullbacks, if not the best in the world. So good that you played him, but ultimately you made the decision. Trent is a must-have. I need to get him. Maybe sell Mane and bring in a cheaper midfielder. Yeah, I'd do that, mate. Maybe even a Gallagher. My rank is 405. Good rank? Of course, mate. That's a fantastic rank. Even if it's 405k, that's a good rank. 405 is exceptional. 76 points this week, mate. That's fantastic. Start Rafinha or Duffy. Rafinha for me. Hey, man, Dylan, how you doing? I got 77 points overall. Put me up to 36k. Fantastic, Hassan. And some very good ranks and scores being put in the chat. And yeah, that's fantastic. I'm doing well. Much better FPL wise this week. And I'm going to be eating dinner soon, unfortunately, lads and lasses. Got to get that dinner, mate. Don't want to be starving. Should I do Vardy to Kane and downgrade Sal to Brownhill on a -4 hit? Assuming you already have enough, defenders, midfielders and attackers to cope, I probably would. I normally would say yes, but with Vardy's fixtures coming up soon, I'd say no. I'd hold. Is it insane that Salah has 117 while Gallagher, who follows, has 62? Yeah. But then again, obviously, Gallagher, exceptional for his price. Him and Smith Rowe are kind of just, I'd say, going away from the rest of the budget midfielders. But yeah, Salah's on another level to any asset. Andrea, buy the man yesterday. Wonderful player. We all need him. yeah, potentially. And look at City's fixtures coming up. Get Cancelo or Diaz, and Cancelo is my pick, as I talked about from 5-10 game weeks ago. Took your advice and started Aspie over Cancelo. Worked out in the end. Wait, Aspie didn't come on, didn't he? But yeah, Aspie over Cancelo. Based on the fixture, makes sense, but yeah, Cancelo ultimately was the right one. And from now on, just play Cancelo. Never bench him, to be honest. Really tempted to get Trossard and Saka in. I would rather go for Gallagher. But if you already have him, then fair enough. And then Smith Rowe, I'd rather have him than Trossard and Saka. Sorry, I meant my rank is 405k. Like I said, it's still a good rank. 405 is exceptional. 405k is a good rank, especially at this part of the season. Did you watch the expert video? No, I didn't. I believe so. I know there's a video where experts or YouTube content creators teams are in. And I think mine was in it, but yeah, I haven't watched it. Thank you very much to everyone who's been tuning in. It's been a lot of fun talking to all of you. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. I'm going to be eating soon. I'm going to be wrapping up. Thank you very much. A very good day of football. Fantastic game between West Ham and Liverpool. F1 was very good and emotional as well. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. It's the same as my YouTube handle. I'll try to read out any last comments and questions. Thank you very much to everyone who tuned in. Would you replace Foster or play Foster or replace Sanchez with Gaeta? I would be tempted to replace Sanchez with Gaeta, but if you already have other areas like getting a Son, Gallagher, etc., then maybe just hold the keeper. What do you think of Nkunku? He's having a great season. Obviously, he's knocked out anyway in Champions League fantasy, so he's not someone I'm going to be bringing in, especially in the knockout stages, of course. But he's having the season of his life. Time to sell Havertz? I think so, mate, especially for Gallagher. And all these other options you have. Ramsdale, Livramento, Rudiger, Diaz, Cancelo, Salah, Gallagher, Grealish, Tony, Jimenez, Kane, benches, Foster, Christensen, Rafinha, Brownhill. Thoughts? I'd be a bit concerned about benching Rafinha. In your team, I'd be looking to upgrade one of your Chelsea defenders, especially Christensen, to a James or Chilwell. Grealish to Foden or Jota. And Jimenez to Antonio in Game Week 16 or 18. And yeah, other than that, it's fine. But yeah, obviously Tony, if he continues to blank, he's another to get rid of. Isn't it time for Tariq Lamptey? Not necessarily, because Brighton have been a bit sus recently defensively. And one thing I've noticed, and I don't know if I'm being a bit harsh, but Brighton don't tend to be as solid defensively when Lamptey's in the team, and also he's injury prone. That's the main concern with him. And I'd just rather get Livramento. Obviously, the fixtures are really poor right now, so maybe it's not the time to get him in. Yeah, with Lamptey, he's a decent option, but for me, I'm probably just going to be passing on. Thank you, Jad. Forster, Ramsdale, Foster, Walker, Chilwell, Aspie, Livramento, Salah, Grealish, Townsend, Gallagher, Kovacic, Kane, Tony Armstrong. Kovacic, obviously, I'd get rid of. I'd also get rid of Townsend, Grealish. Once again, getting those names I talked about, Foden, Jota, etc. Maybe even Smith Rowe. Aspie, I'd move on to either a cheaper defender, or I'd move on to a Cancelo. I think you're missing out on Cancelo and potentially James. Mate, your camera's not showing. I know, mate, because I'm wrapping up the stream. This is a different slide. What would you advise doing with Havertz now? Probably sell, and I'd get in a Gallagher, or if not, look to a Foden or a Jota as a like-for-like replacement. Let's touch on Newcastle potential buys before this ends. Callum Wilson for me is the only one I'd be looking at the moment. Maybe one of those Bournemouth, former players like a Fraser could become a good asset again. But for me, it's Callum Wilson. He's the main one to look out for. I wouldn't look at the defenders. Callum Wilson, Saint-Maximin, they're the two main ones, especially Wilson. Thank you very much to everyone. Would you do Mbeumo to Smith Rowe next week? If he continues to blank, not ahead of this week, obviously, but if game week 12 happens and that's the case, then yes. But if you don't have Gallagher, get Gallagher in. Mbeumo to Bernardo Silva, not a bad move. I'd rather have Foden, but Bernardo Silva is a good pick too. Best front three right now, it's difficult to say, but I'd have to say either Vardy or Kane, Antonio and Armstrong. But obviously, it's mainly dependent on which Southampton striker plays. That could easily change in a few weeks' time to a Ronaldo, etc. I think Vardy will have a very good streak after the Chelsea game. Thank you, Kobe. Cheers to you as well. Force on Greenwood. I still wouldn't go for him. He could do really well in game week 12, but I wouldn't get rid of him here. But I wouldn't be bringing him in, and I'd rather have other midfielders. Thank you very much. It's Arif. It has been real. Thank you very much to everyone else who's been tuning in. If you've got any questions or comments that I haven't answered, leave them down in the comment section below. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good luck in Game Week 12, of course. Enjoy the international break, and I'll see you next time.